Boutique podcast is a show for mature audiences only. Listen at your own peril. Landing now at the Piece of Junk Studios in Lexington, Kentucky, a cornucopia of nerd culture with news and reviews from the genres of comics, science fiction, horror, gaming, and even a little cosplay. It's the Geeks Boutique podcast. And now, here's your host, JD, Zack, and Jason!
All right, episode 4 of the Geeks Boutique podcast is coming at you now. We'll show you our dick pics as usual, and then we're talking cons and beyond the pages. In the Mausoleum, we'd show you to the bone with our recommendations, Wytches, Irredeemable, and Appalachian Undead. In Hillbillies on Film, Zack and myself duke it out over Spider-Man Homecoming. Then we'll enter Zack's cosplay closet for a debriefing from the Midsummer Night Masquerade. We talk all things Warhammer 40k 8th edition and anything but a 1. And then keep listening for more grim dark news as we bring you our interviews with Bradley Gibbon and Commissar Iliea. All this and more on this month's Geeks Boutique. Okay, everyone, I just want to jump in here for a second and announce that the podcast now has a Patreon account. Please consider joining us in bringing our growing fan base the best podcast possible. Your donations, whatever the amount, will help us bring you Geeks Boutique, Bluegrass and Bugbears, and all the other little mini episodes that we bring you. Every buck helps, and we greatly appreciate your help. So to get involved, it's really easy. You can either go to our Facebook page and link through there, or you can go directly to Patreon at www.patreon.com/geeksboutiquelex. We already have a few supporters that we'd like to thank. First off, Laura Carr of Lexington, Kentucky, John Robinson of Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, Tony Johnston of Houston, Texas, and our all-star supporter, Megan Sebastian of Georgetown, Kentucky. We'd like to throw out a big heartfelt thanks to all of you.
Yes, thank you guys, definitely.
Yeah.
We're currently looking into getting some prizes made up, maybe some dice and T-shirts and such and so on, to send out to our supporters at their different levels of support. So stay tuned for more information on that.
All right, folks, we've got some of our listener questions of the month. We'll go ahead and start off with Kevin Wesley of Georgetown, Kentucky. Kevin writes in to ask if the Geeks Boutique team thinks Tony Stark could be the ultimate bad guy villain of the Marvel Marvel Cinematic Universe. Dun dun dun. Mm-hmm. Kevin posts that the Skrull invasion of the first Avengers was possible from Stark mistake. The villains of Iron Man 2 were byproducts of the Stark family's misdeeds. Ultron, Sokovia Accords, all backed by the Sokovia Accords, which are backed by Tony Stark, and most recently, which we'll address in Spider-Man Homecoming, all the Vulture's tech starts out as some Stark Industries stuff. Yep. So, guys, what do you think? Could Tony Stark be the ultimate mastermind bad guy villain going on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
I've got one more piece of ammunition.
Ruh-roh.
He wears a goatee.
Well, so do I, and therefore,
and you're evil,
as evil as
you're
shit,
a supervillain,
like chaotic evil.
He resembles the devil on the Deviled Ham.
Exactly.
Cans.
Those angular features.
Yeah, and he's got lots and lots and lots of money, and money is the root of all evil. Like, really, without the money, Tony Stark's really not that impressive. That's how he affords all of his gadgets. So, I mean, I have a hard time almost believing that he's like Gomer Pyle, Barney Fife, that he just having these mishaps, misdeeds that, whoopsie, just invite all these aliens to come hang out on the planet. Oh, my bad, I accidentally created an evil AI that's going to kick the shit out of everything. Like, really, at no point ever did he see any of this going just ever slightly awry.
Maybe it's just like a curiosity kills the cat kind of scenario, because he's so wrapped up in his technology and creating new things and pushing all these buttons just to see what'll happen, that he's not so good about predicting the unintended consequences that come back in his face.
Yeah, like a lot of these scientists have tunnel vision, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's his greatest flaw, is his tunnel vision and his, inability to figure out that he's making a bad choice.
See, was it Iron Man 3? Is that the one with the Mandarin in it?
Yeah.
Pops up?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's a dick to this guy at a party, and then he ends up becoming a villain.
That's true.
So,
I hadn't thought about
moral of the story, don't be dicks to nerds, and we will end up fucking up your world. That's the take-home point from this.
Yeah, I wrote in the show notes the Skrull invasion. In the movie, it was changed over to like the Chitauri or something.
Right,
yeah,
John?
John?
Yeah, because I think Fox owns the rights to the Skrulls in their Fantastic Four deal. The Skrulls show up in Fantastic Four, so I think Fox actually owns the rights to the Skrulls. So they had to come up with a substitute alien race, to put in those Avenger movies. So the Chitauri became the movie version of the Skrulls.
Yeah. I think Kevin's maybe trolling us a little bit in this question. I don't know if he really thinks Tony is a villain. And, to put down the Chitauri invasion, Tony risked it all. I mean, he almost died.
Certainly.
Before they went out for shawarma.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's the ultimate cover right there. The presumed self-sacrifice. He knew he wasn't really going to die. Come on now. He's Tony Stark. So he just, it's this false flag thing to where he's looking like, oh, yes, I'm doing this, selfless sacrifice. And then he comes back and everything's all good. And now he's like, he wants to be in charge of his friends. And,
I think he put it all on the line. Come on. Yeah.
I'll definitely agree that he's a complicated character that's prone to mistakes, but not necessarily from an evil, at least not coming from an evil place.
Yeah, and in all seriousness, though, I don't think he's the ultimate bad guy villain, but I think there's, I think what it is if you look at what was Ironmonger, isn't that the one in the first one? The guy that's got the, I guess the bastardized Iron Man suit.
The Jeff Bridges character.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I can't think of the guy's name.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I think the company, and he's got such a large reach, he can't keep an eye on everything that's going on all at the same time. There's a lot of room for things to kind of go awry. And I think ultimately his mission and his vision are good. I think that he's so far overextended that he can't always see the outcome of every single thing that he's involved in.
Sure.
And, honestly, the whole way the Marvel Cinematic Universe is set up, that Tony Stark, Iron Man, kind of is the catalyst for everything. He's really the main character throughout all of these movies.
Absolutely.
It's all based around him.
Yeah, it's the running thread. He's the skeleton of the movie.
As much money as they've got tied up in Robert Downey Jr., by God, he better be the main character.
Yeah.
Well, they find a lot of reasons to take him out of the suit. You know that, right?
Yeah.
You notice that? I mean, they want to expose his face, which is why you always see the heads-up display. We want to see Robert Downey performing, and that's why we've got that heads-up display. They want to get him in there.
I mean, they couldn't have picked a more perfect person to play.
No.
Yeah, he is Tony Stark.
I mean, yeah, long and short of it, Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark. I think that was probably one of his most memorable roles right there, even more so than Sherlock.
Okay, let's jump over to our next question. This one comes again from our super fan, Tony Johnston of Houston, Texas. A really long email that I'll try to just summarize here for everybody. I know Tony's a big tabletop gamer fan, and he and I both recently backed a Kickstarter put out there by Cool Mini or Not, CMON is their acronym they go by. It's still up and running now. I think there's about 3 weeks left. It's their Kickstarter to get the Game of Thrones tabletop miniatures game up and running. It's all run through Kickstarter, $150. You get the starter box, and you get all the extended goals and everything included.
What comes in the starter box?
You get House Stark and House Lannister, about 103 minis total. You get one of the big dire wolves.
So is this more of going to be like a large army kind of game, or is it more of a skirmish game?
It's rank. I think it can be both because they're on circular bases in a movement tray.
Oh, very nice. Yeah. I like that a lot.
103 minis total, including Robb Stark, Sansa Stark, and I think Greywind was his direwolf.
Robb Stark, yes, Greywind.
Yeah, you get the Mountain, you get Cersei, you get Tyrion. So they're launching all this through a Kickstarter, which Tony's point is that a lot of the brick and mortar gaming stores, which have a hard time making the bottom line, to be honest, are kind of upset about this because you got a major company like CMON, which doesn't need a Kickstarter to launch this product. And yet they're doing it this way, and they're taking the initial launch out of the store, which probably costs the store a lot of money because they could sell this stuff and make good profit, especially something like Game of Thrones, which probably everybody's going to try to get. So what do you think about this as a business move? Is it a misuse of Kickstarter? And if you were a friendly local game store owner, would you be hacked off about this?
Well, I know as a former store owner, I had a comic book store out in Danville, Kentucky back in 1993, and we didn't survive. It was kind of a failed experiment. But a lot of it had to do with a manufacturer trying to control the distribution of their product. At that time, it was Marvel buying Heroes World, which was like the third largest distributor of comic books in the country, and they wanted to distribute their comics solely through Heroes World. And what that did was it decreased, as a store owner, decreased our discount on being able to buy those books, so we couldn't make as much profit on the books as we could have when we bought them through other distributors. And another thing that happened to us back then, too, was with Magic the Gathering. That's when Magic became really popular, was, in the 90s.
Yeah.
And as a store, we had to order like 12 cases of a new Magic product just to be able to get 4.
Yeah.
Because the manufacturer was limiting the number of cases that the distributor could get, where the distributor didn't know what he was going to be getting. So like I said, we would have to order 12 cases of this hot product. We'd get 4 cases to sell while it was hot. And then, a month later, we'd get all of our other 8 cases and nobody wanted to buy the shit.
I think that was also like the perfect storm of bad news for you guys, because if memory serves, that was probably the Fallen Empire's launch.
It was, with the counters. It had the jeweled counters that you would put on the cards.
Even to this day, Wizards of the Coast, who now owns Magic the Gathering, will tell you that was a colossal screw-up on their part, because they had a problem about supplying all this demand. So when Fallen Empires came out, they were determined to meet all the orders. Now, they didn't tell you guys that.
Right.
So you didn't know, okay, we're going to order 12 and try to get 4 out of it. If you ordered 12, they went into hyper-productive mode to get you 12. And then, so here you are flooded, and it also turned out that expansion really sucked.
Yeah.
It really sucked.
It was really bad.
Probably the worst one in all the 25 years of history.
What was it that made it suck so bad?
The cards were just shit.
Just shitty.
A lot of that counter
and the
business.
counter stuff, before that, you didn't have the little counters that you had to place on the cards, you know what I mean? It just added a different element to the game that, to a game that everybody was really pleased with.
Yeah.
So
that was a perfect storm of mistakes all around.
Right.
You guys unfortunately got caught right in the face.
Yeah. Historically, manufacturers, I don't think they give a whole lot of, a hoot about the retailers, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? These guys are selling this product through Kickstarter, right?
Yeah.
So they're not having to discount their product to get it into retail hands. So
there is a retail option. I looked at the Kickstarter. There is a way, like as a business, you can get in there and back it as well, and maybe get a bunch of stuff that you could sell. So I think they're trying to cover both bases.
Like some promos and display stuff for it, or
I don't know what all comes. It looks like just as a business person, like if I owned a game store, I could back it for 10 copies, put down my $1,050, and I would get those same.
I mean, I don't know. I can kind of see both sides of it as somebody that owns their own business too. I mean, yeah, they've got every right to complain, but I think the people that are going to buy the game are going to buy it in the store. They're going to get it one way or the other. And once this Kickstarter thing ends, it really doesn't matter anymore. I mean, it's pretty much over and done with. I don't know. I think the big thing for me though is that a lot of the people that are going to come in, they want to be able to pick up the game and look at it and touch it, and that tactile, tangible element of it is going to help them regardless with the brick and mortar stores. But at the same time, though, cool mini or not, it's their game. They're the one that created the game. They're the ones putting all the money into it. How they want to market it is their choice. That's their business. If the local game stores are upset about it, they need to make their own game or figure out some way to get into this. There's always ways to make money off something like this. Yeah. They just have to be willing to go out and find it.
Well, I mean, that was kind of Marvel's attitude when they bought Heroes World, like, suck it up, retail stores. And what happened? I mean, there was like 5,000 comic book shops in the 90s. And by the time of the Heroes World debacle, I think there was about 1,500 left.
Really?
Yeah. So, I mean, I can see why the retailers are mad about this.
Yeah, and I tend to side with the retailers as well. Zach and I kind of do our gaming at the Battle Forge here in Lexington, and 80-85% of their store is taken up by gaming tables that they supply for people to come in and play tabletop games. And if I walk in with my Kickstarter copy of Game of Thrones and we have a game, we're just using the space for free. I mean, maybe I'll buy a soda or something, but, that's not a game he got to sell to us. That's not a game that he made any money off of, and we're walking in and slapping it down, and they're providing space just out of the goodness of their teeny little hearts.
Do you think the internet, I guess that's the greater thing, I mean, it's Kickstarter, right? But do you think the internet is going to destroy the whole retail, brick and mortar store eventually?
Nah, I say no, because thinking back on it, this is not the first game that's done a Kickstarter.
No.
For it. And I don't understand why they're picking up on this one to have backlash with. Malfo did a Kickstarter, Eldorado did a Kickstarter. I mean, this is a huge IP. Don't get me wrong. There are people who couldn't give two shits about the rest of the geek stuff, that are just falling over, ejaculating, and frothing at the mouth for Game of Thrones and love it.
Right.
But, I mean, how many people, truthfully, I would like to see the numbers on how big of a dent Kickstarter and stuff like that puts into local gaming stores. Because, I mean, for as many other games that I'm aware of that have done Kickstarter stuff, hell, even Privateer Press did Kickstarter. Like, the only one that doesn't jump to mind is Games Workshop here lately. I mean, all of them have done Kickstarter stuff.
If it became the prevailing kind of paradigm, I think it could be detrimental.
Oh, sure.
And I think that, it's a responsibility of a lot of the gamers here locally who want to have a public place for them to go play and, associate with other
Mhm.
gamers. I think we all probably need to really just take a role in going to these places purposefully and, dropping a few bucks and buying something while we're
Absolutely.
there. Because, there's no such thing as a virtual. I mean, there are virtual community spaces online, but you're not going to.
It's not the same.
You're not going to get the same experience, and so. But I think there is the potential for disaster in that regard. There's potential. Maybe not necessarily reality. I don't really know much about.
Well, with these games and everything like that, it's typically when you're doing the Kickstarter stuff, you're investing this money, you'll get like the starter box and some stretch goals. And once the Kickstarter's done, it's done. It's such a limited thing that it's I don't know. I mean, the long-term implications I just don't think are there. Now, if they were every time that they released a new expansion or every time that they released X, Y, or Z miniature, they were doing a new Kickstarter, and you've pretty much removed the Song of Fire and Ice game from the stores, yeah, that's going to hurt it. But with an IP that's not been tested as a gaming system, I mean, there's a living card game.
Yeah, there's
for
some
Game
card
of Thrones,
games and stuff.
but for a miniatures game, when you've got hot ticket items like Age of Sigmar out there already, that's pretty much controlling the market, and it got a lot of really good historical stuff, like what is it, Ages of Glory or something? Like
Saga?
That? Saga, yeah.
Saga's a good one.
That's controlling like the historical stuff. They're trying to break into some pretty flooded markets right now, and I think as far as a company, it's a good move to make sure that hey, we're going to go ahead and have this event already pre-funded. That way we know we're not going to lose money out on it.
It doesn't preclude my point that I think that we do need to emphasize that people do need to go out to their gaming stores and support them.
Definitely.
Even if you're just buying some paint or some brushes. I mean, if you're dropping nothing more than like $20 when you go out there and pick up some new miniatures or some cards or a book or some brushes. I mean, you're that's the reason people do these things. I mean, yeah, they're there to make money, but they want to see people in the store. They want people to get out there, and you're never going to get the same experience with these games if you're not out at your local gaming stores, because at least all the variety of the ones in Lexington have their own flavor, their own personality, and their own meta and community involved with it.
And I also don't want to take us too far off point, but I do want to say that we were all at D20 Games at a Star Wars X-Wing competition recently, and I did notice the concessions that they had there at D20's, and I made a mental note to myself. I thought, you know what, they really need to up their game in concessions, and I think that's where a lot of their money could be made.
Nerds live on Doritos and Mountain Dew.
No shit, right? That's like the
Nerd
nerd
fuel.
elixir of life.
To dovetail what you guys are saying, like, okay, I back the Kickstarter. It's a really good deal. It's
You're part of the evil empire.
You bastard.
It's $150. You get the starter box and every stretch goal without putting in any more money.
Well, that's the beauty of the stretch goal.
all the stretch goals.
That's the beauty of the stretch goal.
But what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint it up all real nice. I'm a pretty decent miniature painter, and I'm going to take it down to the Battle Forge. I'm going to coordinate with the owner and say, this new game is out. You may consider carrying it. I'll run demos for you. We'll set up an event. Dudes can come roll some dice, see the miniatures, play the game, and we'll try to get the sales.
Chicks can come roll some dice too.
Yeah, whoever. I meant it collectively. And so I'm going to use it to like build the community for that game in the Battle Forge, maybe, if they want to have the demo games run, and then they can order stuff for people. And their business model is not quite the same as the normal gaming store. They kind of follow like more of a European model, where they're actually a gaming club. So I've never joined per se, but you can pay $20 a month and you get a locker and you leave your stuff there. And so and then they do special orders for their clientele. And we all commented about how do they make money? They don't have much stock. Well, go in on like a Friday afternoon and you'll watch thousands of dollars come in and out because people order through them.
Yeah.
It's personalized special orders.
Right.
And that's kind of their gig. That's how they make their money, plus the memberships, which are reoccurring every month. So that's a trickle of money. So I like that model a lot. I wish the community were bigger and there were more people to support it.
I do too, but at the same time, to a large degree, I'm kind of an impulse buyer. Like, I mean, I'll set aside money that I can use for my impulse buys. But for me, it makes a big difference if I walk into the store and there's something that I've thought about sitting there. I'm like, well, shit, I can buy it right now, and I've got it in my hands. I can take it home and then put it together and fuck with it and do all the other things I need to do. Versus sitting there at the computer and kind of, thinking back and forth, should I buy it, should I not? But
sometimes you just gotta have it now.
That's what I'm saying. So like, I like to walk in and see some stock, but like you said though, there's a shit ton of money that goes in and out of that place all the time through the orders. And
I wouldn't say a shit ton. They have a hard time making their bottom line, but that's where their money is at.
Well,
that's where their money
that's
is
what I mean.
Right. Right.
Okay, sorry about beating that horse to death.
Exactly.
That's right.
Since that was a question from Tony, I want to skip to a question. I'm springing this on you guys kind of on the fly here, so I apologize.
So excited.
A question from his wife, Stacy.
Oh, Jesus.
I had posted a picture of our script for this show on Instagram and Twitter and stuff, and she saw it, and she knows, of course, that her husband's a big fan of ours, so she wrote on a response to me on Facebook that really enjoying the show. Tony gets a lot out of it. She wanted us to play the game Screw, Marry, or Kill.
Okay. I'm super excited.
And I wrote back, I'm like, okay. I actually had to ask my wife.
Do these things have to be exclusive?
Because I'm like, who's marrying? Why would I screw her or kill her? She's like, no, marry. Like, okay.
You're so precious, Jason.
Yeah. So, but I wrote back and I said, well, okay, but we got to make it, we fit it up with the theme of the show. So I thought maybe we would pick Game of Thrones characters.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh!
So who would you screw, marry, and kill in the Game of Thrones universe? And is there
Screw,
anybody who wants
marry,
to jump in and answer
kill.
first?
Jesus. Let's see.
He's not an option.
Wow.
Wait. All right, let's think here.
Oh, come on, kill should be easy.
I know you're hinting at Cersei, but I kind of like
necessarily.
that hateful resting bitch face. Like that just kind of just generally makes me happy. No, let's think here.
I'll go.
Okay.
Screw, marry, or kill.
You gonna do all of them, or are you gonna do screw first?
I'll do screw first.
Okay.
Then.
Well, I'll pick a screw, and then we'll all pick a marry. And we'll all pick
Okay, cool.
Okay.
All right. I'll do screw. All right. Has to be Cersei.
Okay, now, but I feel like every time you say something, there needs to be a followed up why. Because now I'm getting,
That'd just be wild, man. Are you kidding me?
yeah, but you've got a brother sitting there beating down your door. I mean,
He's got one hand now.
Yeah, he's not the man he used to be. So the timing of your screw is very important.
Yes.
But no, I want to know why. There's got to be a specific reason.
She's an attractive
hot.
woman.
She is an attractive woman.
She's hot. I think she's hot in the Judge Dredd movie that she did as well.
She's been
I
lots
think
of
I
stuff,
got one
yeah.
you could hit all three. Paris Hilton.
Or is this strictly in the Game of Thrones?
Yeah,
Scott?
she's.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jesus Christ, Scott, have you been?
Did they sneak her in?
She's
My
an
bad.
extra. She
And
plays the dragon.
I would disagree very much with that statement anyway, but
All right, I would change my answer.
you don't have to.
Oh God!
No, I want to. I forgot about her. She's dead now.
Oh.
Spoilers.
Spoilers.
The Tyrell girl.
Marjorie?
Marjorie.
Oh, I was thinking of any of them through the
Natalie
entire
Dormer, right?
thing.
Yes, Natalie Dormer.
Brrr.
Natalie Dormer.
Hey, she tried to hit up Captain America in that first Cap movie.
She did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he
forgot
was
about
kind of
that.
like,
Yeah.
all right, until Agent Carter came along. And
Shit, what is Ygritte? Isn't that the woman, Jon Snow's woman?
yeah.
Yeah.
You know nothing, Zach.
This is not untrue.
Rose, what's her name? Rose something.
I think it'd be up there between Marjorie Tyrell and Ygritte. Yeah, I would have to go with you. Yeah, I'll go with Ygritte. I like me some wildling woman.
All
Jason,
right, who's
let's-
next? Come on.
Oh,
Let's hear it.
You gonna do marry or kill?
Melisandre.
Old version or young version?
Just keep the necklace on, please.
I had to. Now would you like have the weird shadow creature join in with you?
No.
Okay, so just strictly her.
I might send them out in the world to kill my enemies or something.
Fair enough. All right.
Scott, do you have a Game of Thrones based answer? No. You haven't been keeping up with the show, right? You read the books.
I just thought
He's not even playing the same game.
I'm not even
Mackerel.
playing the same game. I thought we were just talking about just celebrities in general.
The game has rules, Scott. You have to follow the rules of the game. Else it's just Scott Dill's fucking around.
Mary. Back to John.
Back to me.
Yeah. Who you gonna marry?
Sansa Stark.
Yeah.
Sansa Stark.
Why, though? I mean, you got to follow with why.
She's Queen of the North.
All right. I'll dig it. I would go with Daenerys. The dragons, the army, and all that good stuff. Yeah. I'm going to go with Daenerys.
Gosh, I really don't know.
She kind of scares me a little bit.
I like a woman that scares me, though. Like, if she scares me slightly and there's a good chance she'll set my house on fire, I'm all in.
Man, and she could survive that.
She could. She would, like, start singing, like, Singing in the Rain, but, like, Singing in the Flames as she, like, danced through it, like, Clockwork Orange style.
Man, I don't know if I'm willing to hang my hat on any of these women.
Your wife does listen to the show. Just keep that in mind.
Well, I assume she does.
She just tells you she doesn't pat you on the back, tells you you're pretty.
Who would be a safe bet? I mean,
You've been married once before. Are we really going with safe bets?
Yeah, I mean, I said Sansa Stark. I would have to deal with Littlefinger over that. And he's the most devious son of a bitch that ever lived.
yeah.
True that.
It can't be. Who's the lady in it's kind of leading Dorne now. You couldn't trust her.
One of the sand snakes.
Well, the mother. Right? She killed the king.
Mhm.
Oh gosh,
Come
I
on.
may have to pass on.
All right.
You can't pass.
Zach.
Who would I marry?
Who would you marry, Zach?
Oh, he said Daenerys.
Oh, he said Daenerys.
Yeah,
That's right.
Daenerys.
That's
I mean,
right. That's right.
we'd hang out on the dragons and all that kind of. Yeah.
I got it. Missandei.
Who?
Missandei. Daenerys' advisor, translator.
Oh,
okay.
whoa, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Why?
She's beautiful.
Well,
I mean,
there's got to be more than looks to. There's
Oh,
more to a woman
she's-
than her looks, Jason.
She's smart.
Jesus.
She's classy. She's beautiful. She's a safe bet. She's probably not going to knife you in the back.
She's a woman. There's always a good chance she'll knife you in the back.
Well, maybe I've got it coming to me. But Missandei, I
Also
like
possible.
her. Yeah.
All right.
All
All
right.
right. All right.
All right. Kill.
Kill.
I'm going to go back to my first answer. Cersei.
Okay.
Oh shit! I'm drawing a complete and total blank. I think I'm having a stroke over here. What's the mom's name of the Starks?
Oh,
Catherine.
Caitlin.
Yeah,
Caitlin.
Caitlin.
Yeah.
I'd kill the shit out of her. Literally, if she were to die
Oh,
at the
she's-
very beginning, all the events of Game of Thrones, all the bad stuff could have been prevented. She is directly responsible. I'm saying it right now. Directly
Kinda.
responsible
Yeah.
for all the negative shit that happens in Game of Thrones. If she hadn't kidnapped Tyrion,
Yeah.
there would have never been the big war. Ned Stark would have never been killed. Shit. Robb Stark wouldn't have been killed because there wouldn't have been the war. I mean, literally, you can trace back all the bad shit that unfolds to the kidnapping of Tyrion by Caitlin Stark. So I'm going to go with kill. And literally, I'm going to save Westeros by killing Caitlin Stark.
Yeah. I can't. I don't know if that's my choice, but I can't disagree with your line of thought there. She tries to like get involved and help, and it's like, no, just don't. Just don't.
I'm helping. Stop.
Yeah, but she didn't set that stuff in motion. Littlefinger did.
Well, when she kidnapped Tyrion, though, that was the big tipping point for
Yeah.
everything going to hell.
But she wouldn't have kidnapped Tyrion if it hadn't been for Littlefinger. Littlefinger set the whole thing in motion.
Well, but here's the thing. If it hadn't been for Catelyn Stark, Littlefinger wouldn't be as involved because he's madly in love with her. So if she's dead well before they ever meet. Problem solved. You can't win this one. I have the high ground, John.
I'd probably kill Cersei. She's bloody horrible.
She is.
Agreed. Who was your kill?
I gets it.
We both agreed
We
on
both
Cersei.
Cersei. Yeah,
Yeah.
we both Cersei.
Good enough. The game has been the game of Thrones has been played.
Thanks, Stacy Johnson, for your question. If anybody wants to write in and give us their answers, we'll check those out and read out any of the interesting ones here on the show.
And we're always game to be put on the spot and play random weird
Yeah,
fun,
sorry
awesome
about
games
that.
like that. That was awesome. No, that was super fun.
All right.
Okay, one last thing, a little opening banter section. I think I posited the question earlier about, of all the superheroes out there, which one has the best collection of enemies? The rogues gallery, like as they say.
Well, I certainly want to put up Spider-Man right away.
Uh-huh.
But I also would like our listeners to kind of chime in on this too and answer who they think has the greatest rogue.
I think we need to put this on Facebook
Yeah.
as like a poll or something like
Okay,
that.
we'll do it.
Yeah.
So you want to put Spider-Man up as an option?
I'll
I think
put Spider-Man up as the option.
I'm hard as I would like to pick
Superman.
something different.
Superman's a darn good one.
Yeah, I've never just been a big Superman fan just in general.
No, but he's got a lot of good villains out there that are popular.
I would
Well-known.
have to go with Batman.
Yeah.
But I don't know though. I'm kind of leaning towards Spider-Man, but I think Batman's definitely a close second. As far as being popular villains in terms of well received, because I mean you've got the Joker and Harley. That's just that's it.
Yeah.
And there's
And
a lot
Bane.
of other. Well, and Bane, as
And
well
Bane.
say. And so like his villains, as far as amongst the general public that aren't maybe as immersed into the whole geek nerd comic culture, are really well known by those
Mhm.
people and elements of society. So I'm probably gonna say Batman.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just throw some suggestions out there, and let's bounce this to the Facebook page. Maybe I'll throw up a poll, and our listeners can vote.
I
And
think it'd be a great idea.
yeah,
Sure.
we'll have the results on the next episode. I think it's a good question.
Absolutely.
Okay, so as I said before, if you'd like to contact us with any of your answers, responses, questions for future shows, please do so. All of our social media sites are listed on the page, and we'd love to hear from you guys. We take feedback to heart, and we read every question. We read every email that you send us. Let's see, the Gmail account is at geeksboutiquelex@gmail, or just private messages through Facebook. We're on YouTube now, Twitter. However you want to get a hold of us, please do so. We love hearing from you.
Hey buddy, come over here. Comic Book Dicks is our comic segment. It's the place where we each dive into our local comic shop and try to sleuth out a good read amongst the rubbish. We might be behind the 8 ball, So you better holster your piece, Gumshoe. We've got work to do.
All right, pricks, what are you reading this month? Jason, you go first.
I'm
buddy.
glad you asked.
Yeah.
Yeah, John, we were up at Collectibles, etc., scooting around one day, and something leaped off the shelves. I mean, leapt. I guess they're both good English. Black Road by Image Comics. I got the trade paperback because, as you know, I'm Mr. Trade Paperback. This is the first collection called The Holy North. The writer is Brian Wood. Artist is Gary Brown.
That cover looks fucking awesome.
It's very cool.
Flip it around here.
The guy on the cover is Magnus the Black. He's the main character.
Digging it.
He's a Viking mercenary. It's set in about the year 1000. The Black Road is this fictitious stretch of road that heads north through Scandinavia, and it's very treacherous. It's known for bandits and lots of warlordism going around. He's a mercenary hired to take a member of the Church North, and I won't get into any spoilers or anything, but it's kind of a nice travel story, a road story filled with violence and treachery. I kind of like the character of Magnus because he's kind of this hard-bitten, world-weary, kind of beat-down character. He's huge. He's the size of a mountain, big guy. That's why he has such a reputation for being this great mercenary and bodyguard and everything. Doesn't have the best of luck in the world. I like this very bleaker than bleak picture of the Middle Ages in Scandinavia.
Mm.
It's really hard on the church. The cold backstory is that it's the age of conversion in Scandinavia, and they portray the church in a very negative light.
King Olaf.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all about like the church, militarily conquering the North and torturing people to death. It's like, oh, that's a bit much, but it's a fun road story. I like the character of Magnus a lot. He's very matter of fact about his business. And a lot of stuff happens to him that's kind of outside of his control. But I like bleak, dark, medieval, hack and slash sorts of things. So if you're in the comic shop and you see the Black Road, definitely pick it up.
Well, I'm definitely going to go after that. How about you, Zach, man? What are you reading this month? What do you got for us?
I went ahead and picked up Preacher, book 1, because, once again with Jason being the trade paperbacks, if I'm going to get it, I want the most bang for my buck, and I really feel like you can't go wrong with trade paperbacks. But no, Preacher is, it's been a blast, and especially where they've got the new TV show. I saw some commercials for it, and I was like, you know what, let's dive into that. That looks like a lot of fun. And, it's the only problem with trying to talk about this one is you really can't talk about it much without going and giving a little bit of spoilers, because, it's such a nondescript title, Preacher.
Sure.
But anyway, Preacher follows the story of Jesse Cussler, and he's a preacher, as the title implies, and then literally one day he just wakes up and says, fuck it. And pretty much tells
me every day, man.
Exactly. He gets drunk, tells his congregation exactly how he feels about him. And normally he hadn't had any kind of following at his church until the night that he went off the deep end. The next morning, there's hundreds of people who have shown up at his church just to see what he's going to do. And
I would totally go to that church.
Oh yeah, it's going to be an adventure. Well, at one point during the service, things kind of go awry, and there's a huge disaster, and you need to read it to find out, because it's a really interesting plot point. But basically, he decides that God has pretty much decided he's stepping down. He's not going to be God anymore, that God's clearly gone missing. And it actually, you find out in the story that is the case. So he decides that he's going to set out on a mission to find God, in a sense, to track him down, figure out he's going to answer for what's going on. Why has he stepped away? Why has he abdicated the throne? But Preacher may not be all that he seems to be. He might have a little otherworldly help going on with him. And right after the major disaster, he meets Tulip, an ex-girlfriend, and Cassidy, a newfound friend who may also be a lot more than he seems to be, of the blood-sucking variety. And it is a really fun, really great comic. It's the story, even though it focuses on a lot of angels and demons and that kind of stuff, it really shows more that the angels and demons are not so much the biblical sense, even though they're actually physically in the story. The biggest demons and angels that they actually meet are just everyday people who are doing these either heroic or incredibly depraved acts throughout the course of the comic. I think book 1 is the first 12 issues of Preacher, and it's a lot of fun. You really can't go wrong with picking it up. It's definitely very gruesome, very over the top. It's almost Grindhouse in a sense, as far as just the way and the language used in it and the imagery. But it's got a great story. It's got a lot of really good action, and there's some good horror, some really good twists throughout the entire story. I mean, I definitely recommend everybody to go pick it up, check it out if you like that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
it's definitely right up my alley.
Really some dark humor. I read Preacher when it first came out, And
This is going back to the mid '90s.
Yeah,
how old is Preacher?
Gotta be maybe early '90s. Garth Ennis, the writer, Steve Dillon, the artist. Steve Dillon passed away recently. This was really unfortunate because his artwork really, brings a lot. I mean, it is. When I think of Preacher, I think of Steve Dillon's artwork, and really irreverent, a lot of really dark black humor, but just, a fantastic book. I like your dick pic this month, Zach, without a doubt.
One thing that warms the cockles of my old heart is that Zach is the youngest member of our podcast team here.
By far.
This is an older book, and you said you were drawn to it because you'd seen the previews or maybe watched some of the episodes. Mm-hmm. And I hope that's going on across the nation, that people are seeing, the TV show and they're drawn back to the comics.
Mm-hmm.
Because the comics always get shafted, and this is kind of a topic I want to bring up later, but
right.
The original creators, artists, the people whose blood, sweat, and tears create this stuff, then it hits the big time, and it's all kind of left behind. So I'm glad that the show is driving people to the book.
See, and that's always been the case for me, is that I'll see something, typically I'll come across something in a movie first.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then go from there and then kind of backtrack, like, okay, because to me, I almost see a movie as it's, the distilled essence, or it's borrowing some of the ideas from the original source material. And I've always noticed that the original source material is always so much richer than the book. I think that's in the comic. I think that's in a case across the board with everything.
Sure. I just like comic art. I want to see the comic art.
And the art for this one is awesome. It's definitely got that. I mean, I think it came out the first issue was 1993. Just kind of looking really quickly at the copyright there in the book. So issue 1 was 1993.
Right.
And it's definitely got that early 90s kind of feel, that art style, that very heavy black lines. A lot of cell shading going on with it. It's
the heyday of us Gen Xers.
Yeah.
We were so angsty in 1990.
Oh, and and Preacher is super angsty. Like the entire thing, just
Still
the whole
angsty.
sort. God's not there.
Exactly.
Yeah. God, are you there? It's me, Preacher.
John?
Oh,
What
yeah.
you got?
Well, I've got a.
Drop some knowledge on us.
Oh, I don't know if I'll drop any knowledge on you, but
What would you drop?
I will drop a really good book.
Drop some.
I was hoping you were going to say The Hammer. I'm really sad.
Well, I am. I'm dropping the Black Hammer.
The Black Hammer?
The Black Hammer.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that's what it's called. It's Black Hammer. It's from Dark Horse Comics. It's written by a guy named Jeff Lemire, and drawn by Dean Ormston, and the colors are by David Stewart. Anybody that really knows me knows that I'm into the pulps. I'm into like old comics. I'm into
Really? I hadn't figured that out yet.
Yeah, mystery.
I missed out on that.
Like mystery men type characters. That kind of thing, like Doc Savage, The Shadow. And all those characters really contributed to what the comics became. And a lot of people, and I do like superhero comics, and a lot of people don't like superhero comics. A lot of people think that after Alan Moore, The Watchmen, that nobody can do a superhero comic like that anymore. And I'd have to disagree, because I've found a comic, in my opinion, that has something to offer to the superhero genre that has never been offered before. And that's what this is. Black Hammer is about a group of like what I would call mystery men type superheroes who, and I don't want to give away too many spoilers because I don't like to do that. I like people to discover these books.
Yeah.
On my recommendation, this is a great book, but I don't want them to know too much about what's happened. But these characters have become trapped in a Midwest town in an alternate reality where they cannot leave this town. And the story begins by exposing you to that, and then slowly reveals the backstory behind each one of these characters. You've got a character who's similar to a mystery man type, not a superhero, well, superpowers per se, more like a Batman character named Abraham Slan. And then you've got a robot companion. His name is Walkie Talkie, and his companion is Walkie Talkie, and they call him Walkie. Actually, I say he; it's a female robot. So,
okay.
Or at least they refer to the robot in the feminine, gender.
I was going to say, how do you know?
Right? They say she, or or her, or that kind of thing. And then, but the Walkie Talkie is a companion of this former astronaut adventurer who has become caught between dimensions, or he's in this thing called the Parazone, and his name is Captain Weird. And it's kind of I don't know, almost a takeoff of say something like Adam Strange, from DC Comics. And then there's this a girl who's named Golden Gal. She's like a superpowered girl, but she's an actual woman. And when she enacts her power, it's kind of like Shazam. she becomes a little girl. And while...
And how is that helpful?
I don't know, but her powers manifest when she's an adolescent.
Huh.
So it's just great stuff. And then you got another character called Barbalian, kind of like a barbarian. A Barbalian, obviously.
The Barbalian.
Yeah, Barbalian. He's a warlord of Mars. But it's all very nostalgic. It's very pulpy. But like I said, what Lemire brings to the superhero genre is that you've got these very human stories about family and small towns. And he just adds so much, to comic book culture and the superhero genre, in my opinion. It's something that you don't see too often. You know what I mean? Alan Moore obviously did just about everything you can do with the superhero. But this is not a copy of The Watchmen. It stands on its own, and it's really, really worth a read. And like I said, it's called Black Hammer.
Cool.
Yep.
Sounds awesome.
Yep.
So, as always, we encourage everybody to head out to your local comic shops and pick these titles up based on our recommendations. If you like what you heard and picked it up and enjoyed it, let us know. Drop us a line.
In our next segment, Beyond the Pages, the team discusses in-depth topics concerning the comics industry.
Okay, a topic that's kind of come across my radar in like last month in particular is the kind of the state of the nation of comic cons in general. I don't know if you guys noticed, but there was a big news story. San Diego Comic Con just wrapped up, and their biggest retailer, probably one of the biggest comic book retailers in the country, Mile High Comics, didn't go this year. They pulled out, and the reasons they gave us...
I did not know that.
Outrageous booth costs. Now they always get like a lot of floor space, but it was $18,000 down.
Good Lord.
That's before their costs of transporting their stuff out there, paying their staff,
I mean, don't get me wrong. As somebody who does vending themselves, I mean, I feel like a lot of booth space is outrageous for the fees. I mean, it's nuts even for some of the smaller cons. But $18,000.
$18,000. And the year previous to that, they didn't even get set up and running until like the second day of the con because the staff is union staff out there. And there was a problem with having enough people, and so they didn't get their stuff unloaded and brought to the floor until the second day.
Yeah.
And what is it? Is it 4 days?
I think so.
Yeah. Well, I think they've started an early preview day now on Wednesday, so I think it's actually a 5-day con now.
Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, they dropped their $18,000, and then one entire day they didn't have product to sell. They were just sitting there at empty tables.
And typically your first and second days are going to be your best days.
Mile High was like a standard for the San Diego Comic Con. They were there early on. So why wouldn't you...
They've been like 40 years or something in a row.
Why would you make sure that those guys were taken care of?
Because, that's my point, it's not about the comics anymore.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's about pop culture in general, and especially the stars that play the characters from the comic books. And this is the riff I was playing on earlier about a comic gets popular, it gets picked up, turned into a movie or a TV show, and then all of a sudden... Okay, Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man, and it's all about Robert Downey Jr. getting his autograph, meeting him, going to those panels, whereas the poor comic book sellers or artists or writers are off in some booth somewhere,
I mean, for
not
me,
a lot for their effort.
I'm not really going to, when I go to cons, like Comic-Con and everything, I'll definitely peruse the comics out there if they've got something rare, if they've got something hard to find. But for me, a lot of times, unless they're offering some really good discounts, like some con specials, I'm really not going to end up picking up too many comics. Now, for me, what I would rather do is go down like Artist Alley,
right,
and look at the up and coming, the new stuff, things that aren't mainstream. Being a comic book hipster over here, and pick up, and definitely if we can help promote some of the new stuff, like the Last Ride for Horsemen. That's still one of my favorite comics that I've picked up in recent memory. I absolutely love it. And but I'm not really going to go to see a big publisher or see a vendor that's got just file box upon file box of comics unless there's something that's hard to find or something that I'm really jonesing for, or it's a good price.
And I think that's the key too for a lot of those vendors is that at least when we had a shop and we worked cons, I think that the people who came and looked at our back issues expected to get a discount that they could get at a show that they couldn't necessarily get at their local store.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's something that's still kind of expected, but definitely you're seeing less and less of that at these Comic-Cons. It's become more of a like a mainstream entertainment venue, for celebrity guests and autographs and photo ops and
And for me, that's the reason that I go. I go there to collect the autographs. I go there to meet the celebrities. I go there to see the cosplay stuff. And I go there a lot of times to buy art from Artist Alley. But I'm really, unless they've got some kind of big draw for these different comic book vendors, I'm not going to buy something from them for the same price that I can go right down the street to the local comic book shop and buy it from there. Why would I support a more distant business when I can support a comic book shop in my own backyard?
Yeah, but if it's not made profitable for the comics vendors to be there, then you're kind of losing the heart and soul of what a Comic Con ought to be, right?
I agree.
Yeah. Again, maybe I'm just like being a hard ass about the semantics. It's like if you call yourself a Comic Con, then I want to see comics, writers, and authors and artists. That's what I'm going for. All the other sidelight stuff, it's cool and all, but if I'm a comics guy, I want comics.
Do you think that the Lexington Comic Con is striking a pretty good balance with that?
I'd say so.
Yeah, I think they are. I think of, the cons that I've been to, I think they do try to strike a really good balance.
And I have found some good deals. There's a guy, I think he's out of Ohio, that comes down and has the $5 trade paperbacks.
Jim City.
Can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Jim City Comics.
Clean up on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the one of the things that I like really well, though, for, being the comic aspect of it, is when you get the opportunity, it's typically down the Artist Alley, to meet a lot of these comic book creators. I've got to meet Tim Bradstreet, that did a lot of work on the Punisher comics. I've got to meet, I'm trying to think, I've lost for the names right now, but I've got to meet, quite a few comic book creators and ask them about their creations and ask them what their inspirations were. And for me, I would rather sit there and talk to people about their art than there to buy so much stuff. But like you said, it's, at $18,000, that's cost prohibitive, because the thing of it is, you're already in the hole for your overhead for buying the comics to resell. You're in the hole already for
you got to get them out
to
there
get there, and that's a bitch.
Right.
Like I said, doing the vendor stuff myself, that's a pain in the ass to get all that logistics moved around.
Now, I will say this, though, too, about Mile High. They have some really special items.
Yeah.
They could make that money back in one sell.
Really?
Yeah, they have very, very special comics. Some really high-dollar things. But then again, who's going to the San Diego Comic-Con to buy an Action #1?
Yeah, maybe if I could drive a Brinks truck through the aisles.
Yeah,
fuck her in there.
Yeah.
I agree, but that's the thing, that overhead is so high for them. Obviously, if they're pulling out, they clearly didn't see it as profitable.
Yeah.
Or
at least how much are you willing to work to make X amount of profit? Is it worth the effort and the time and the trouble?
Right.
The mindset that you have to make $18,000 in sales just to break even. No, there's no way.
That wouldn't be even, because you got your shipping.
That's
your
what I'm
rooms,
saying.
Your staff.
Well, yeah, you count all that other stuff in there too,
Right.
and you're killing it. You're killing your business.
Yeah. What's this stuff going on with the Fandom Fest in Louisville?
Abandon Con or Mall Con or Abandon Fest or Scam Fest
more locally. It's happening as we speak. It's this weekend that we're recording on July 27th through the 30th or whatever, up in Louisville, Kentucky, Fandom Fest. This is the other, again, talking about the quality of service that the convention should extend to their guests and their attendees, and they're really dropping the ball in a lot of regards. Unfortunately, our buddy Chris Priest from last episode is up there. He's got a booth.
Yeah.
And God bless, I hope he does well and sells a lot of his book.
Didn't 24 of the celebrity guests drop out of that?
Yep.
Yeah, they've been hemorrhaging guests, including Weird Al Yankovic, who was kind of their headliner. It's have problems with logistics and fan relations, and it's been an ongoing problem for the last several years, and this year is maybe the culmination of it all.
And the problem of it was, too, that the fire department got involved and said,
Right.
Look, for the venue that you guys have moved to, you cannot accommodate more than 1,700 people in this building at a time, or we will shut the whole thing down. You have anybody over that, any number over that in this convention, we will shut this place down. And that's not going to work. Fandom Fest and their stats, they were pitching it to the vendors as apparently being between 30 to 40,000 people expecting to show up.
Or half of that.
Yeah. Well, no, that's actually what they
More or
pitched.
less.
I know, but in reality.
Oh, in reality, yeah.
can't
That's what they
anymore,
pitched to the vendors, and then ended up saying in their letter to the fire department, oh, well, don't worry. We're not expecting more than 4,000 people to show up over the entire weekend collectively.
So are we reaching a tipping point with all these cons? Are there too many of the cons?
I think it's going to be a shape up or ship out kind of thing, because I think this is talking to people, and there's a lot of cosplay groups that I'm involved with and a lot of con groups that I'm involved with. Apparently, they do this shit pretty frequently to people that go to Fandom Fest.
Fandom Fest does.
The
Wow.
Fandom Fest is always a collective shit show. in that they'll promise that, oh, we're going to have this guy, we're going to have this guy, oh, we're going to have all these people. And then it comes to find out they were never actually booked to begin with.
Oh.
That their contracts were never finalized. The logistics to have these people boarded, have them brought down, have space set up was never finalized. They had merely just reached out to talk to their agent. And a lot of these celebrities even give them backlash of like, look, I did not cancel Fandom Fest. Fandom Fest canceled me.
Yeah.
They didn't meet their deadlines. They didn't do their requirements. They didn't have anything set up like they were supposed to.
They didn't have my 8-ball of cocaine in my hotel room.
Exactly.
Yeah, no shit, right? Well, and then
my bowl of red M&Ms.
Yeah, exactly. Three chickens. But reading through too, back to the vendor thing of it, there's been a lot of posts from the vendors that it's a disaster. That there were people showing up and that to be vendors, and they're like, oh, we'll just go pick whatever booth you want, just set up wherever you want. And as somebody who is big into this, it's location. I'd lose my shit if I had already bought a booth and I show up and there's somebody. I'd be like, you need to get the fuck out. This is mine.
And plus, isn't it in like some old Macy's department store?
Yes, that's why they're calling it MallCon. I've taken to call it Dumpster Fire Con.
And they haven't changed the layout. It's still a Macy's inside with like Macy's signs and jewelry cases.
Dude, it's seriously like they've got shit set up on the old displays that where the mall used to be. This thing is a fucking ham-fisted disaster, man.
Wow.
It's truly something special. Like, I don't ever want to burn any bridges, but I don't even want to build a bridge. So that is a bridge to nowhere right there. Yeah. And
well, God bless anybody who's out there working right.
Absolutely.
Trying to make a dime this weekend.
Sounds like our second lawsuit of the episode, Fandom Fest, to be contacted very soon.
Hashtag Dumpster Fire Con.
And you guys have a law degree?
I know some people that know some people.
Oh, maybe we got some listeners out there. So yeah, that's kind of the question I'm asking is like, what's the future? What do future cons look like? Does the con industry in general need to have a come to Jesus moment? And because there's a tipping point where fans are going to get tired of this crap. You pay so much money, and there's so many people attending that you don't really get your money's worth. I had the opportunity to go to San Diego about 2 years ago, and I'm like, you know what? That sounds like a hot mess. 100,000, 130,000 people.
You'd be an anxious wreck and just collapse to a pile of clothes. I'd be in the fetal position in aisle double X. If you can make guts out.
Yeah, particularly about on the third day when you get that whole con smell going.
Yeah, the con crud. Con smog.
Yeah, we have our local con here, Lexington Comic Con, which is really good. And they're expanding at a very rapid pace. And honestly, I don't know how much longer they can continue to use the space that they have. That they need some more buildings or something in downtown Lexington to take advantage of because they've gotten too big for their britches.
Mm-hmm.
We're going
Which is a good thing. Which is a good thing though for that one.
Yeah, but logistically, can Lexington continue to host it?
And I know Scarefest is technically not a con per se, but it's similar in that vein. Man, I have a hard time going to Scarefest just because it's so packed full of people.
Really?
And it just seems like the venue is just not sufficient. It's too small. It's too small for what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Lexington Comic Con as it expands, I think it's still got some room to where it can grow into the current venue and not be on top of one another. One thing I did like though was that there was 2 vendor halls. That was kind of cool. Mm-hmm. To where there's the one downstairs and the one upstairs. The only downside of it was not as many people were going to the upstairs because all the celebrities were downstairs.
Yeah, I was impressed by that. I'd been to the Comic-Con with Jason and Zach the first time ever, and I always wanted to go to it, but I was impressed by the way they maximized the space. They didn't keep everything confined to Heritage Hall, and they used all of that space down there, all those floors, and I thought that was a really good idea.
They've gotten better at moving the crowds in that convention as well. The crowds move easier, and it looks like they're utilizing, I think they're utilizing, the Lexington Center's own crowd control staff. I think you see those folks there. They're experts in that kind of stuff.
I was going to mention Zach and I are going to Gen Con in Indianapolis in a couple of weeks, and this is the first year where they've ever been like, you know what, we're stopping ticket sales.
Yeah, that sucked. I should have bought my next year I'm going to go ahead and buy my tickets as soon as they drop because I waited too long. It'd been way cheaper to have bought the tickets, the 4-day pack.
This will be my 10th year in a row, and it's the 50th year anniversary of the show. And about 5 years ago, they doubled the size of the convention center in downtown Indy. It's outgrown that. They've expanded into Lucas Oil Stadium, where the Colts play. They've extended into lots of downtown. They're already in like 5 or 6 of the major hotels, and including like one of the old train stations. And it's just, it just keeps growing, and they're having a hard time, keeping up with that demand. So this year they're like, you know what, we don't have any more Saturday passes left.
Yeah, that's what I'll say. It was. I was glad to get the tickets that I did, but it ended up being way more expensive.
Yeah.
Than I was planning to. Kind of not to keep beating a dead horse with the whole Fandom Fest thing. I think one of the biggest issues is not so much the guests canceling, but the non-refundable tickets. When they're talking about things being sold out.
Yeah.
I mean, now you've bought these packages and you've bought these tickets, and well, now you're just standing there with your dick in your hand, and you don't have anything to show for the money that you've dropped to be there and to go.
Yeah, that isn't right.
I saw there's a law office in Louisville that's opening up a class action lawsuit against them for that reason.
As they should.
Wow.
So see, look, when Fandom Fest tries to sue us, we'll contact that lawyer and go from there. So look, we've already got that part nailed down. We got one of the 2 lawsuits covered for this episode.
Awesome.
Problem solved.
That's how I like to roll.
But no, I think, kind of like you said, with the whole tipping point with the cons, I think this needs to be a very community-driven thing, and I think it needs to be something to the effect of if a con's not going to have good fan service and they're not going to be supportive of the community, that the community doesn't support them in return. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see a boycott of some of these conventions like that in the future.
The free market wins, right?
Yay,
crappy
capitalism.
service, I'm not buying anymore, I'll go elsewhere.
And I think next year with because it's not just an issue amongst the Facebook communities and the local stuff. It's made the news. It's actually a pretty big to do, as big of a flub as this thing's been.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the local news channels are like, look, these people
even
are
they're
pulling
covering
out.
it.
Yeah, so
And not in a good way. I mean, they're covering
no,
it.
it's a very negative light.
Like
It's
CF.
Yeah, it's way worse than anything that we've said. So we should be safe.
Yeah. So I guess we need to start our own con then, and provide top shelf service.
Geeks Boutique Con.
Yeah.
Boutique Con. What would we call it? Geek. Yeah, we'd call it something cool.
I was going to make a joke about how it's just on par for Louisville. I won't go there. Louisville knows Louisville. You do you, we'll do us.
Exactly.
And for our Louisville listeners, please keep listening. We love you. all 2 of you, please keep listening.
Please call in and tell me that I'm a Lexingtonian blue blood full of bourbon and horse racing. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Horse something, that's for damn sure.
Yeah.
Way to dig deeper, boys. If any of our intrepid listeners would like to chime in on this topic or anything else you've heard us cover on Geeks Boutique, you can drop us an email at geeksboutiquelex@gmail.com. Hit us up on Twitter at geeksboutique1, or even message us on Instagram with geeks_boutique_Lexington. You can also find our Facebook page at Geeks Boutique Lex. We'd love to hear from you, and one lucky listener will have their comment read out on next month's show.
Follow us now, brave fanboys and fangirls, as we lead you into a realm of terror and gore. It's time for us all to face our fears and step into the Mausoleum.
Bring out your dead. The Mausoleum is growing. Each of us has a spooky recommendation in this segment this month. I guess my creepy ass is wearing off on you guys.
It's contagious.
It kind of is.
Goes back to being that supernatural STD I think we talked about earlier. with the other earlier Mausoleum.
I'm going to go first because I'm really freakishly excited about the title that I picked up. Just by chance, you know how life is weird sometimes that way, but my wife and I were in the mood to buy a book, and we have a local bookstore on the north side of Lexington, and we dropped in there, and they actually have
what's the name of the bookstore?
It's the Wild Fig.
Oh, nice.
Wild Fig. It's a bookstore right on North Limestone. Tiny little place, just a little converted house. We go down there because it's local, and it's a really cool company, couple that runs the place. But they actually have a really pretty good selection of trade paperbacks, and the good stuff too. There's not a lot of crap in there. And I looked down and I saw Wytches, spelled with a Y, W-Y-T-C-H-E-S. I'm sure our listeners are familiar. It's published, again, by Image. Both of my picks this month were from Image. Scott Snyder is the writer, and the artist is Jock, J-O-C-K.
He's a fantastic artist.
And I'm kind of going like Zach Gregory losing my shit mode over this book. The greatest comic, or the greatest trade paperback ever written. I'm totally in love with this. This is the first time I've ever on the show been like, this is a must-read. Go get it now. If you think you're a horror fan, you don't have this. You're a poser. Get out of my sight. Go get Wytches and start reading it. We talk a lot on the show about horror. That's not just horror, not just gross, not just creepy. Horror with a meaning. And really the whole story behind Wytches is, again, I don't want to tell you too much so you'll go out and buy it. It's a relationship with a father and his daughter. She's probably preteen, maybe 13, 14 years old. They've just moved. She has some emotional issues, some mental health issues, and they've moved and tried to start a new life over again. He's a recovering alcoholic, and there's a large part of her life when he was kind of checked out. He was in the bottle and not a very good father at all, and they've kind of come through a lot of that, but now she's having a lot of trouble, and the horror is tied into all of that. And that's all I can say, really, without going too much into the book. It's done very well. The art creates this creepy as heck atmosphere. I just think everybody needs to go read it. If you like horror, get Wytches. I think there's about 4 or 5 trades out now, so it's got some history to it. So there's a lot out there, and I plan on buying all of it. It's awesome.
So is it more like a graphic novel kind of style?
Yeah, it's totally graphic novel style.
Oh, awesome.
I don't know what else to say, except that if you like horror, that's not just spooky or gross for the sake of being spooky or gross. Horror with a story to tell, this is right up your alley. It's phenomenal. Even
Awesome.
Stephen King says so if you don't trust me.
So you said it's Wytches with a Y, W-Y. What's the significance of that in the story?
I should mention that a little bit. The first page is actually, it's the artist's artwork, but it's a dictionary definition of what a witch is. You turn the next page, and it's all scratched out. So it's kind of redefining what a witch is. So maybe that plays on why they've changed the spelling.
Okay.
Again, I don't want to tell you what witches are based on their redefinition because it's involved too much in the story. But yeah, that they've taken what a witch is and they've kind of redefined it for this story, and it deals very closely with what the family's going through. And just go read the damn thing.
Awesome.
I'll stop fanboying over here.
I was saying,
Well,
I've never seen you above like a simmer as far as excitement. And
that's right.
It's good.
As deadpan as normal, and then I can see the twinkle in your eye from over here.
It's definitely going to be on my reading list now.
It's good, man.
Awesome. All right, guys. I actually at the legendary book bash there at Lexington, Kentucky, was hanging out with the guys from Apex Publishing, and we was kind of looking through some of the stuff because as we had the Kentucky Kaiju, which is something that they do as well, which we love, with Teresa Bolin and Justin Stewart, hanging out with them. Sean Pryor. Yes, yeah. Thank you, Sean Pryor. I was trying to think of the other name. Got looking at the other table and saw some of the other stuff. So I'm gonna feel like my next several Mausoleum entries is gonna be from Apex Publishing. Because
they're
really
among
great.
the best right now. So
totally derailing the segment, but I didn't realize one of my favorite authors who writes really great zombie stuff, Brian Keene, is actually with Apex Publishing. So I've totally got to hit up.
Yeah,
I
picked up one of his books. I haven't read it yet.
But he's a great writer. But anyway, went with Appalachian Undead, and this one's a collection of short stories. It's edited by Eugene Johnson and Jason Sizemore of Apex Publishing, and it's really just a great collection of zombie stories, all set in Appalachia. Ranging from, just the entire mountain range through there and a bit into like Louisiana. So you got a little bit of Cajun stuff going on as well. But it's not just your typical shambler zombies. It's got a whole variety of different zombie types and ways that people are zombies. One of the most interesting ones was actually a kind of like a Cajun voodoo kind of zombies. And the main character in that one, she's actually kind of like a Cajun black magic voodoo witch kind of woman. I'm noticing a trend here with our Mausoleum segment, and she's spinning off these zombies that have been kind of raised by voodoo. And there was another one that was really, really interesting. And these are just some of the stories in there. It's really great. Is one of them that's set during Black Friday, as far as with all the shopping right there before the holiday season. And this company is pumping in a chemical into the mall to get people to consume more, to buy more. Well, one of these evil corporation guys.
Wait a minute, that really is happening, isn't it?
Yeah, no shit, right? Well,
he's like, it will now.
He's like, well, some people are sitting down. Some people aren't up currently consuming. They're taking breaks. Why are they sitting down? And it's literally people their legs are so tired from walking around shopping all day that they needed a break. And so they're now shopping in rotations. Well, he's like, screw this, and he cranks it up to he turns the knob to 11 and decides he's really got to up the ante on it. And kind of one of the last scenes in it, these two guys are walking along and they notice this chick and they're like, I just like to take a bite out of her. And, she's the way they describe her, she's really hot. And the guy's buddy's like, "Well, just go ahead and do it." He's like, "Well, what do you mean? That's insane." He goes, "Well, if you won't, I will." And then just carnage ensues. I guess he's like, patient zero of the shopping mall zombie apocalypse, and just bites into this woman. And next thing you know, they're all consuming one another, going on through it. It's I don't remember exactly how many stories. It's about a 200-page book, and some of the stories are a couple pages. Some of them are about 10 pages. It's really great, really enjoyable. And one of the things that I noticed that was amazing with the collection here is that all the authors that are involved in it, within just a handful of pages, they establish their own unique world, their own unique storytelling, and they actually create a true sense of horror. And they tell really dynamic, really great stories in just a couple pages, which is typically unheard of to have that much development that quickly. I can't recommend it highly enough. If you like horror, especially somebody like me who loves zombies and likes variety, I get a little bit of reader's ADHD with it, and I'm like, let's get something new. Can't go wrong with the collection from Appalachian Undead.
I just wanted to add, that the greatest place on earth, Disney World, they actually intentionally use scents like that they pump into the park as you're going through to kind of influence moods. Yeah,
no kidding.
So, along that vein of what you're talking about with the mall, but anyway, it's just an aside.
I'll say I could see Disneyland being the Kickstarter for the zombie apocalypse. Can't you imagine just like a bunch of like Minnie Mouses running around just taking chunks out of people?
Yeah, I've heard you don't want to encounter Walt Disney security, like they're like the Gestapo or something.
Or better yet, what if it's like one great big moment that they're all counting down towards zombie Walt Disney's going to rise up and lead from Disneyland?
We're always trying to find new and creative ways to get ourselves a lawsuit here on the Geeks
Podcast. Wow. There's not enough people listening to this.
It only takes one.
I like that reference, too, about him turning it up to 11.
To 11? Little Spinal Tap?
Yeah, Spinal Tap. These go to 11.
This one goes to 11.
Yeah. All right, well, we're continuing in the vein of short stories, being able to convey, feeling, theme, and message within an economy of words. My Mausoleum pick is a book of, it's a collection of horror stories by Jason Sizemore, the owner, again, and chief of Apex Publications.
We just need to go ahead and have him on the show.
Yeah, definitely.
He's coming. Stay tuned.
Definitely. And the book is called Irredeemable, and again, it's a collection of horror short stories. Jason really, puts on a show in this book, and he exhibits a really wide breadth of talent, and his ability to cross genres, from story to story, science fiction to folk tales to fantasy, and he does it all very effortlessly. And there's always that horrific element in these stories, and that production of what Mark Sperry said, dread. It really produces that in you. I've got a lot of favorite stories, and again, I don't want to give too many spoilers, but I do want to mention some of my favorite stories in this book. One is called Mr. Templar, and basically it's a story about artificial intelligence and a moment of sentience. It's an incredibly visual story. I mean, he really paints a picture in my mind. I would love to see this story illustrated, heavy metal style. I think I even told him that, when I met him last time at the Legendary Book Bash, that story really took hold, and I could just see this thing being illustrated. Another one of his stories is a story called Samuel. It is pure hillbilly fable, complete with the little devil on your shoulder, and that kind of thing. It reminded me a whole lot of stories that my Aunt Sybil used to tell me, and my cousins. She would all have us, on the brink of terror with stories about the big black toe, Tatty Bogus,
nice,
and Saucer Eyes. So, the Samuel story really gets there.
I need to hear the Saucer Eyes story.
Oh, yeah. And, Jason Sizemore's obviously from Eastern Kentucky. I mean, he's got a real feel for that kind of story. One of the other stories, really the story that really hit home to me and really brought the dread to me, was a story called Shotgun Shelter. And interestingly enough, he told me that story is actually based on a real story. It's about an animal kill shelter in a rural mountain community.
Not to be named.
Yeah, not to be named. And
Peter would have a shit fit.
Yeah. It really displays the irredeemable acts of youth and adult alike. It has a ring of truth about it, about the monsters that we all grow up with. I mean, I don't know about you, but, it almost captures a feeling of delinquency and a sense of being lost, at that coming of age moment. As a young man, as a young man, there was a movie, Tree of Life by Terrence Malick, that really touched base on that and talked about the delinquency of youth and, you know, about the things that you do that you really feel bad for the rest of your lives. You know what I mean? And this story by Jason really, really hits that mark and creates a horrific feeling.
I used to shoot frogs with my BB gun.
There you go. And that's what I'm talking.
No reason.
Yeah,
just shoot them.
Right, and it's something you probably regret, right?
Yeah, I'm like, I was out there to shoot frogs.
Were you a bedwetter to like a late age obsession with fire? I'm just kind of going through the serial killer checklist over here. We're already starting down that pathway.
Right. And, I mean, obviously, there's a difference between a serial killer and our Jason, but
there is.
Yeah, very clear difference.
Or at least he has us fooled into thinking that. But
right.
But we all do, strange things when we're young. We make odd decisions, and we let peer pressure take us in ways that we wouldn't necessarily thought we would have went. And I feel like there's real truth in Jason Sizemore's horror tales. So please go out and pick up this book, this collection of stories. It'll terrify you.
Yeah, I like that Jason's kind of in a lot of his publications are on the cutting edge of the subgenre of Appalachian horror. There's some weird-ass stories up in Appalachia. There really is a whole different folk milieu out there that we don't really get much of in the mainstream media or mainstream stories, and he's kind of right there working with it. And
have y'all ever heard of Tatty Bogus? Like I said.
No, I knew the big black toe one.
Yeah. Those are strange stories.
I've not heard the story of Tatty Bogus.
Well, he's kind of a devil character, what I mean?
Okay.
So,
see, going back though to what you said about they clearly kind of have an appreciation for the culture of Appalachia. A lot of the stories in Appalachian Undead really do show the struggles. There's a lot of mining town, and one of I won't reveal anything, but there's a lot of stuff to do with like mining. There's a lot of moonshine stuff going on, and a lot of this stuff affects so some of the worlds that are set up there in some of the towns, the way they're run down and so impoverished that it's really hard to tell if they were this way before or after the zombie outbreak or whatever apocalypse event had occurred.
Mm-hmm. And that whole part of the country is just so awash in like old tales and superstition and almost like some kind of twisted version of old world lore that took root in Appalachia and hasn't changed in hundreds of years. And crazy stuff like my dad's dad was the seventh son of a seventh son, and so they thought he had magical powers to heal babies.
Sure.
I'm not bullshitting.
Right.
Wait, are you serious?
I'm
your dad was a seventh son?
People would bring their kids to him
that
were ill, and he would breathe on them. They wanted him to breathe on the kids.
Oh.
And it would cure like thrush. Babies get thrush.
Yeah. Right.
Bacterial infection in their mouths.
There was an elderly...
Did it work?
I don't know.
There was an elderly woman who lived down the creek from my Aunt Sybil, and everyone considered her an old mountain witch. And
it's my maternal grandma.
Right, her name was Margaret Coldevine, Louisa Emmeline, Sis, and Darty Brown, and they all called her Liddy for short.
Say that 5 times fast.
Did you tell me once that you came across some old Warlock's journal?
Actually, that was a person in my mom's side of the family. He was my mom's great uncle, and supposedly he practiced witchcraft. I don't know obviously something went on because
he had a book of shadows.
There was something going on there. Yeah. But my great grandmother evidently found the book later in life when she was kind of had dementia, and evidently my father had looked at it and he said it was like a leather-bound book.
Human flesh.
Yeah, he had no idea. The Necronomicon. Yeah. So come manifest from Lovecraft's mind. But anyway, he found this book and looked at it. Said it was a lot of stuff about meditation and that kind of thing. And my great grandmother saw him reading this book, and she swiped it when he wasn't looking, and she threw it in the fireplace and burned it up.
Oh.
Gone.
What could have been?
What could have been?
I mean, you're talking hundreds of years there with the knowledge.
My maternal grandma, she passed away in 2011 at the age of 98, and I spent a lot of time with her when I was young. My parents had like these differing work shifts, so there was like a big chunk of time during the day when I needed somebody to take care of me, and so I'd always stay with her. And nothing major, but anytime you'd come down with some sickness or something, you didn't go to the doctor. She'd just go to the kitchen, whip something up, which was usually highly alcoholic.
Right.
Well, some kind of salve or hot toddy.
Yeah, rub the crap on you.
Oh, yeah,
pour it down your gullet, and you're like, okay.
Salve, man.
She had
Hit her on the salve.
this one butcher knife. God knows how old that thing was. It was rusty as crap. She cooked with it all the time. She claimed it was just the best knife to cook with. Maybe there's nothing magical about that, but she claims one time she was struck by lightning, but it hit the butcher knife and knocked it out of her hands. And
Wow. Yeah.
just crazy shit, man.
Yeah,
from
crazy
back
stuff.
in the hills.
Yeah. Again, my Aunt Sybil took my cousin who had a wart. And,
Oh God, warts.
And
Fondle a toad.
and rubbed some kind of like a plant leaf on his wart, and then told him to go take the leaf and hide it under a rock somewhere and not tell anyone where it was at.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and guess what? These warts went away.
I got hit by a Bible a lot.
In the head? That would
Well,
explain.
it depends on where your ailment was. Like I had this,
Okay.
I don't know what it was, but here on my left arm, right about here on my wrist, I would have this little lump that would come up. I don't know if it was just some disjointed thing or whatever, just a little lump.
Too much free time for young Jason.
Well, that's my left hand. Though.
Oh, okay. My bad.
I'm a righty.
Oh.
So I would show that to my mom and my grandma, and Grandma just grabbed the Bible and whacked the crap out of it. And as you can see, I have a perfectly functioning left arm.
Oh, okay.
Whatever that was never came back.
I mean, I'm just more concerned that it turned into a tentacle or whatever over there.
So, yeah, that is a very rich part of the country for all kinds of crazy stories, and Jason's right on the cutting edge
You're
of that.
daggone right he is.
You can't
I
go wrong
honestly
with some
think
stuff
that
from
once he
Apex.
gets, a nice body of work built up behind him and his publishing company, that we'll look back in time and be like, that's
Yeah.
the guy who got it out there and brought it out to the wider horror market. And
Sure.
Remember, you heard it here, folks, at the Geeks Boutique.
that's just my humble opinion.
All right, ghouls and goblins, the morning sun has vanquished the horrible night. It's time to change your shorts and steady your nerves for Hillbillies on Film.
Settle in and uncork your favorite homemade wine. In Hillbillies on Film, we give our backcountry thoughts on film and long-form television. Highfalutin Hollywood types we ain't, but we might have a thought or two worth your while. Sit a spell and listen now, you hear? Hillbillies on Film! Somebody get that heifer!
All right, guys. Recently, Scott, Jason, and I had attended a preview showing of Spider-Man Homecoming, hosted by D20 Hobbies at the Movie Tavern at Brandon Crossing in Nicholasville. Geeks, what did you think of the film? JD?
John, you saw it twice,
Yeah,
right?
I saw it twice. Actually, I saw it. I didn't see it with you guys, but I did see it.
Because you're a loser.
Yeah, but I
Too
did.
good for us anymore.
But I did see it at the movie tavern, though, at Brandon's Crossing. I saw it on the live art event that
Your
night.
highfalutin comic book friend.
Yeah.
Before we get in the movie, how was the live art event?
It was really great. I mean, I actually bought a piece from Justin Stewart and posted it on Instagram. It was Mephisto. Not Mephisto.
Mysterio.
One of our guys in the studio is drinking some absinthe, right? It's called Mephisto. But yeah, I bought a Mysterio piece from Justin Stewart, and it was really great.
Very cool.
Yeah, there was a lot of good stuff going on there.
And whose rogues gallery does Mysterio come from?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Best rogues gallery.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And to tie back
The very
into
same.
earlier Hillbillies on Film, we've got Mysterio's actually was the reason for all the events of Old Man Logan, as well, actually going into the comics.
Wow.
Mysterio single-handedly caused the events that lead into Old Man Logan.
Wow. Okay. See, I don't know about that new stuff.
So a little bit of comic book plug for some art events.
New stuff.
You kids and your newfangled comics and your new characters and all this fancy
Right.
ink not being chiseled on slate, hang-a-dinga.
That's right. That's right. Well, and to that effect, this Spider-Man was great because I felt like this was my Spider-Man. Obviously, his high school experience was different than the high school experience that you saw that I had, growing up, and that Spider-Man had back in the 60s and the 70s.
You went to high school at the edges of the earth. So.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. But the thing is, this was my Spider-Man. This was the high school teenage Spider-Man, quippy, smart, I mean, just everything about it was so nostalgic, you know, and brought back all those memories of reading all those old Spider-Man books that John Romita Sr. drew, and just fantastic. I mean, everything about it was great. I felt like the pacing was good. I mean, there's a lot of comedy in it. I mean, that might turn off some people, but to me, it was very, very entertaining.
Who would be such a monster as not to enjoy all the comedy?
So, but I mean, people like their
Jason.
Well, people like their superheroes pretty serious nowadays, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
So, but
I like it. I mean, even in the comics, though, he's always been silly. He's always been goofy. Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, I feel like Tom Holland nails the Spider-Man role. Like, as far as in my mind, he is Spider-Man.
Right. I think the standout performance in the movie, though, is Michael Keaton. I think it is one of the most multi-layered comic book villains I've ever seen on screen. I mean,
I agree. I mean,
fantastic. I mean, from beginning to end. I mean, he stays in character. The writing is consistent with that character. I mean, it's just...
And he's a scary looking fucker. I mean, like... he's intimidating.
Out of the... I mean, he's an intimidating presence. Not just his appearance, but his presence and the way he carries himself in the movie. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, in terms of villains of the recent, Marvel and DC and superhero, I can't think of a villain that, in my mind, really delivers home that kind of that terror. I mean, of like... This guy is truly a villain, but at the same time, looking at his backstory, you kind of have to agree with him.
He's relatable,
right?
Yeah,
relatable.
It's like
that's why it's so good, because it's so real. You know, those are real emotions. There are real reasons for why he's doing what he's doing, and like you said, they're not necessarily wrong in some ways.
So are we worried about spoilers? Can I talk about the...
Nah.
If you haven't seen it by now, you suck.
Yeah, you definitely suck if you haven't seen it by now.
Well, I like the fact at the end when Michael Keaton is in prison and, he's, I guess the other inmates are looking for information on Spider-Man. I don't really remember exactly.
It's under the effect of when, I mean, obviously anybody that's into it at all and watch the after credit stuff, the guy he's talking to, that's Scorpion.
It's Scorpion.
It's
without a doubt.
It's been said. He's Scorpion.
Yeah.
But he comes up to him and he's like, I've got some guys on the outside that would like some information, would like to meet your friend, and he says basically the effect of he's off limits. And that's one of the things that I loved so much about that character was that he is a villain, but at the same time, there's a lot of humanity to it. He's not just evil for the sake of evil. I mean, he's got a code.
He's got a code. He's got a code.
He's doing it for his family, for his daughter, and...
Oh, and what about that scene? I mean, when Peter goes to the door and they open the door and it's him.
I mean, as far as a great twist, I honestly didn't see it coming.
And the scene with them in the car when basically you've got the, back and forth, the banner, and then he starts to realize what's going on. I mean, it's just...
Yeah, was it a little bit derivative of the storyline of the Osborn family? My best friend's father is freaking head of Oscorp and the Green Goblin, and... I have to piss on everything, don't I?
Oh, you do.
But at the same time, though, I see Harry Osborn as once he becomes Green Goblin, he is evil for the sake of evil at that point.
I have to argue, Jason, that movies nowadays are really devoid of really excellent twists that just throw you for a loop.
That haven't been done before.
I mean, that I don't know. I think it was worth it in that regard because the movies they need good twists.
Right. I think that scene really paid off.
It had kind of a gut check moment, I felt like. And the thing of it is going back to the Vulture and Michael Keaton just being the scary character. I mean, I'm wanting to make a costume of that. I mean, just that look, and there's something about that. It's so alien to a degree with the LED eyes and the mechanical parts of it. I did like that it was a really cool depart from some of the actual Spider-Man iterations of the Vulture to where it was just a dude in a green feathered suit.
Yeah, some green tights and some feathers. And
exactly, where this guy...
kind of knobby.
Like, looking at the outfit that he's put together, especially you think, you're in a universe where alien technology has been brought in. You've got superpowered individuals. You've got super suits that are capable of space flight, as seen in Civil War, or not in Civil War, but the first Avengers where he flies into the black hole there. That's completely believable that somebody with some know-how and access to materials could actually create a flying suit like that. I mean, he's a believable villain. He's a realistic villain.
Yeah, I wondered how they were going to accomplish that look of the old Vulture with like the feathers around his neck, and they use a flight jacket. I mean,
with some fur.
Yeah, with some fur around the edges.
Awesome.
So that was a really good idea. It's great. It's very clever.
I mean, I kind of would have. I don't know. At any point, did they go into explaining how he got his powers? I mean, I guess it's pretty much just so assumed. They kind of glossed over it.
They had a conversation when his buddy was asking him about the spider, and he told him the spider's dead.
Yeah, I remember that part.
But that's it. I mean, I think that was the only reference to how he became Spider-Man, which I'm glad. I'm glad they didn't rehash the origin.
Because we've seen that already. Everybody knows that he gets bitten by the spider.
Exactly. Like everybody knows where Superman comes from, right? I mean, you don't want to see another Superman movie where we talk about how he came from Krypton, right?
And how many times does Thomas Wayne have to die?
Exactly.
Okay, we got it.
Just stuck in an infinity loop every day he dies. It's like Groundhog Day
Pretty
for
much.
Batman. Just every time he's dead.
Right.
These pearls rolling down the street again.
Right. I did see a great little thing going around on the internet where it had pictures of Marissa Tomei from a movie where she plays a stripper, and then there's a picture of...
Can you send me that link?
And then there's a picture of Martin Sheen who played Uncle Ben in the early Spider-Man movies.
Oh, yeah.
And they said, this is why Uncle Ben died.
Too soon.
That's excellent.
Yes.
But I mean, I really don't have anything negative to say about the movie. I really liked it. I thought, to me, yes, there were a couple epic moments, I suppose, like the ferry boat scene and the part where he's climbing up the monument there to save the elevator. But it didn't feel like there was any like the cheesy over the top moments. It felt almost like a small scale, and I feel like that's where he's pushing. Tony Stark's pushing for Spider-Man to kind of be a local hero,
right?
That you're not ready for the big time yet,
right?
I felt like they did a really great job of communicating that in the parts to where the major events in the movie are still comparatively small.
Yeah.
And I think it was a great way to show that he is a new hero. He is new to the superhero game, and that even the epic things he's doing are still small in comparison. I think that was done really well. I think to show the scale of this character in relation to some of the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe pieces.
Do you think that scene was robbed by Iron Man coming in and saving Spider-Man? I mean, I've heard some criticism about that, but
at that point,
he is 16 years old, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was done more to drive home the thing of he's not ready to come into his full as like an Avenger. He's not ready to come in that far yet. But at the same time, I agree that it was robbed because Tony Stark brings him in to fight Captain America and the Secret Avengers. So it's like if he's not ready to if he's ready to fight those guys, if he's ready to fight the Avengers, how is he not ready to do this?
I think that also during Civil War, and I'm not an authority on comic books whatsoever, but I have watched the movies. In Civil War, it's kind of almost a pitched battle. Like they don't really want to hurt the other side. They just want to stop them from moving forward. And so Tony Stark coming back in the Spider-Man movie to kind of admonish Spider-Man is kind of like a continuation of that story arc from Civil War where Tony Stark he's kind of on the other side of...
Well, and to go along with what you said, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but reading through Civil War, the actual body count, excluding like the main event to where they level the city and all that kind of stuff, the actual body count amongst the superheroes actually pretty low as far as terms, because you really just got, what is it, Goldbug and the Blue Beetle or whoever that Punisher kills. He kills them outright, and then was it Goliath that gets killed at the beginning, and then I'm trying to think, which one of the two dies at the end? I'm drawing a blank here. It's
I haven't read it in ages.
I'll say I think it's supposed to be spoilers, but I think it's Captain America gets bumped off at the end of the final battle between Stark and.
Well, it's later in the death of Captain America storyline,
but it kind of follows on the continuation of that with Secret Avengers and everything. But I think, like you said, the overall in the storyline, there's really not a lot of the superheroes that get killed. So, like you said, it's more of we're just kind of fighting a submission. It's more of a heated argument than it is to actually kill one another.
One of the things that I really like, and like I mentioned earlier, I'm by no means an authority on the topic, but like this iteration of Spider-Man versus the previous ones in movies, I like how verbose he is when they started that in Civil War when he's like he's having the fight with the other superheroes and he's like fanboy, he's geeking out.
Captain America,
right. Like he's all excited to talk to, and he's just like he won't shut up. Like he's like bah, 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 bah. And I think even one of the characters is like, I don't know if you know this, but we don't normally talk this much during battles. You know?
Right.
Exactly.
I just thought that was a cool element for them to play on, and then they continued it with this iteration
And-
into the Spider-Man movie.
And that's Spider-Man.
That's true to
That
Peter
is true
Parker's
to Peter
character.
Parker, yeah.
He's always been a smartass.
I was like, and I liked the way he just kind of, I don't know, interacted with the world around him to a degree.
Yeah.
And I felt it was very much like how a kid with superpowers would act. You know, how he's dancing from the rooftops and he's having fun. He realizes that he needs to use this for a greater good, but he also realizes that there's a whole lot of fun that can be had by being a superhero. And I feel like he's going to take advantage
he
of that.
can't wait to get out of school, you know, in that first
Go
part of the
fight
movie.
crime.
Can't wait to get out of school so he can go fight crime.
But I love, too, how they showed that he really wants to fight crime, but he's really not quite that great at it yet. Like the bike scene where he's trying to figure out whose bike this is, and he's there just standing on the street corner on, hey, is this your bike?
I want to say one thing I appreciated about the movie is his high school life and his friends and everything. I think the portrayal was really good. You know, he goes to an inner city school, and that's represented in the diversity around him. Not to the point where it's something we've complained about before in the comics about where it's intrusive and it's forced. It seemed very natural that you know, he's going to this ethnic supermarket and they make the best sandwiches. I mean, yeah, I do that.
Yeah,
So-
well, yeah, I mean,
And they had the
play to your strengths.
one thing about the Washington Monument being made by slaves or not, and I just thought that was handled kind of well. And you know, it was making a subtle point about this is his real life existence, and without being soapboxy or preachy about it.
Which I thought was great, and it showed that it doesn't matter what your background is. That if you're, apply yourself and interested, that it doesn't matter what skin color you are, what gender you are. That you can, really make something great of yourself. That you can have a lot of great talents. That those talents and abilities are completely independent of those biological factors.
And they changed Flash Thompson's character into an ethnic, and they changed the method of the bullying from being like physical altercations with Flash to just bullying of another, just taunting him and saying crap about him around school.
More of a class divide almost kind of thing. It is what it felt like it was with that one.
Yeah, so I thought that was more of a modern take on things, and I thought they did it very well, and it was organic to the story, and it wasn't, they weren't out to teach us a lesson. They were just showing what his life is like.
But I feel like there's a but coming on here.
No.
Oh, you really?
No, they handled all that very well.
No, I mean, in general, didn't you have a criticism of the flick? That's what I feel
if
like.
We're going to open the floor for that.
This is the head-to-head moment. It's all come down to this, folks.
No, I mean, it's a superhero comedy.
Sure.
Right.
I think it was almost a comedic movie. The superheroism was almost second. It was the intent was to be a funny movie, which again isn't a bad thing. Sometimes it took me out of it a little bit. There's a point when he was, I can't remember who he was chasing at the time. I think he was chasing some of the thieves that were in Vulture's gang that had just stole some of the tech, and they were in the van. And he was back cutting through the neighborhoods and stuff. And, he went through the swimming pool at one point. And it got a little bit cartoony for me. You know how you watch a cartoon that's designed at kids, and it's very bright, it's very flashy. Kung Fu Panda comes to mind. He's always bouncing off to things, and oh gosh, and oof, and oh, that one hurt, and rolling down the hill and hitting a tree. And it's slapstick comedy that kids enjoy, not so much me.
Well,
and we kind of got to a point there in that whole sequence where he's like bouncing off billboards and wiping out in the pool, and I'm just like, okay, we get it. And then the points in the movie where it got too reflexive, it got too self-aware, especially with the Captain America moments, that kind of took me out of the movie as well. Well, see, the thing is, no other Marvel Cinematic Universe movie has done that yet, like poked fun at itself. The MCU hasn't been aware of itself before.
What about Ant-Man?
I disagree.
What about Ant-Man?
Did they do that? I don't remember.
Well,
it was funny. Ant-Man was funny as all get out.
Right.
There's Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. actually has been doing that for a hot minute. There's a scene in the first season to where one of the main characters, or not one of the main characters, but one of the, the first Inhumans that you see there, his son is actually playing with Hulk and Thor and Captain America action figures in it. So they've kind of commercialized the Avengers well before Spider-Man Homecoming. and they've been a commercialized, self-aware thing within the universe for a while.
It's not even so much that, because you had the scene at the ATM, and they're dressed like the
They're
Avengers,
masks.
and he makes fun of them, hey, you're not the real Avengers. That was fine. That was funny, because obviously in the universe they would know that the Avengers exist now because they blew up all these cities.
Right.
That's fine. It's not like Captain America giving a nod to the audience still sitting in the theater because they know there are spoilers or extra scenes coming. It breaks the fourth wall at that point.
Yeah, and
spoofs itself a little bit. I was uncomfortable with that.
I don't know. The after credit stuff, I have a hard time counting into the actual
But they
content of the
are.
movie.
They've always been spoilers for the future movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, but sometimes they've just been something kind of fun. Like
even the shawarma scene. I mean, that was just them eating shawarma, but it was them in the universe doing things they do.
Right.
Right.
Lighthearted, but still.
Well, doesn't it make sense, though, that Captain America would give those kind of instructional videos to the schools?
Yeah, I can see
In
that,
that
but not
u-
when
in
he's
that
winking
universe?
at the audience while doing it,
Yeah.
They broke through there, and I didn't like that. Now, this is a tiny, tiny criticism. I still would give the movie like a 4.6 or something.
Jason's splitting Hare's car.
But there were a couple instances where I was kind of pushed out. And also, at the end, it got a little bit too silly and too Spider-Man focused. That's a stupid thing to say about a Spider-Man movie.
The movie about Spider-Man was way too focused on Spider-Man.
But they set the precedence. They set the precedent that the Avengers were out there high level doing high level stuff. You're not welcome.
Yeah.
And then they bring him in, and hey, we got the suit, we got a press conference set up for you. Pepper Potts is back all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
well,
really
where
are
she came
buddies
from.
with, and it's like all the other movies were coming together to like provide Spider-Man this thing, and it's like, wait a minute, the whole point of the movie was that he's not ready,
Right.
and it was all this stuff that had obviously been in the works for quite some time to bring him up to speed is suddenly there, and it
But at the same
struck me as a
time,
little odd.
I think it was good, though, that in a sense that he walked away because that he knew that he wasn't to that level to be ready.
Sure, that's
with
fine.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it was a good thing that in a sense that it actually showed him maturing and developing as a character.
Yeah. I
Be-
felt, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say,
because the entire time in the movie,
Yeah.
he's like, hey, I'm ready. Hey, when are we going to the next mission? Hey, I'm ready for this. And then after everything he's been through, it's time for where he's like, maybe I'm not ready for this. Maybe you guys have been right the whole time. And he walks away and he realizes that maybe where he stands in the grand scheme of things isn't where he thought it was.
and in that respect, that scene serves a purpose.
Yes, it's like he went through his superhero hazing period.
Mm-hmm.
But even after hazing, you don't go straight to the top of the class.
Sure.
You're still the freshman. You're not, here's a new suit, here's a press conference, and all this has actually been in the works for you.
Yeah.
It was just a step too far.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
But no, I mean, overall, I think the movie was wonderful. I mean, maybe it's where I'm a huge fan of Deadpool, and that's his thing is that he breaks the fourth wall and he talks directly to the audience. I think that's a lot of fun. I think it's
Well,
pretty
that's who
interesting.
Deadpool is.
And that's who Deadpool is, and I
Yes.
agree.
So when I go
Well,
to see Deadpool, I know I'm going to see that.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. I guess to a degree, like you said, in the context of the movie, the end credit scene where his Captain is breaking the fourth wall, it does, that is kind of a little, I don't know, oddly placed. I don't want to say it was wrong. I just want to say oddly placed in the scheme of things. But I think it was kind of funny going along with all the times that he shows up in the gym class videos. And that to a degree is a self-awareness. So I think it was just kind of a fun play on the fact of he's showing up there.
Mhm.
Guys, anything else? Any other criticisms, Jason? any other fun-sucking remarks that you would like to make about a really enjoyable movie? It's like a goddamn vampire with a headset over there.
No, I think that's all. That's only the few negative things I had to say.
All right, so I'm definitely gonna give it a 4 out of 5. I mean, it's a 4.5 out of 5. I mean, I think it was a great movie. Obviously, with any movie, there's some things that could have been done better.
Yeah.
But I think overall, as in terms of a Spider-Man movie and being fun, I think they nailed it. Jason, what do you think?
Oh, I rated it higher. I gave it like a 4.6 out of 5. I would put it behind the first two Tobey Maguires.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I will say the second Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Doc Ock.
Yes, the
Yeah,
scene
that's
with
pretty
Doc,
cool.
the scene with Doc Ock in the subway.
Yeah.
When the citizens of New York. I mean, that's Spider-Man to a T.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. But no, I'm going to say this is the best Spider-Man. I thought this was the best.
Yeah.
Absolutely the best version of Spider-Man I've seen. It's the Spider-Man. It just reminds me of the Spider-Man I grew up with. That's what it is. It's more of a nostalgic thing. And of course, Tobey Maguire looks like he's 31 years old. So
But the upside down kiss.
Oh my God.
Well, that's hot, but
That's a classic moment in superhero cinematic history.
And you can totally fit that into any of the other ones with Tom Holland. No, I'm going to go with Diddy on this one. Best Spider-Man movie.
absolutely. Best
They
They
Spider-Man
should
movie.
reverse it. They should have some scene where like the next MJ is like tied up upside down by some thugs, and he walks up and kisses her upside down.
I'll say out of the MCU movies, let's toss this around. Out of the MCU movies, which one is your favorite? I've still got to say that Winter Soldier is my favorite one.
I think so too. Yeah.
Winter Soldier was pretty awesome.
See, there wasn't no inside jokes in that one. It was just whooping ass.
Yeah, it was good.
Where's a little
second number one. I mean, there were some light moments, but
There's
it was
some light
serious.
moments with the Black Widow.
Yeah.
See, I'm torn about how I feel about the Guardians of the Galaxy, because the first time I watched it, that wow factor was just over the top and amazing, and the second time I watched it, it was not quite the same. But in terms of being a favorite movie, and because see, obviously Deadpool's not part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because they don't own the rights to it.
Fox, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Fox.
Yeah. And I feel like I'd be remiss to say too, since San Diego Comic-Con just happened, that we've got a lot to look forward to in the MCU universe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with all the trailers they dropped, the new Thor Ragnarok trailer.
I kind of really was digging on Age of Ultron. I liked Age of Ultron really well. Age of Ultron or Guardians of the Galaxy was probably some of my favorites. Civil War, though, definitely.
Yeah.
To see Black Panther in action. And
Yeah, that movie's going to be awesome.
I'm going to have to say, I think actually I'm going to go with Civil War being my favorite of the MCU. Civil War, I think, was my favorite one.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be awesome. I mean, I think Black Panther is going to blow people away.
Oh, it's going to be freaking awesome. I can't wait.
Yeah.
And it's going to rake in the money.
It's
I mean, there's no doubt
chill
about
down
it.
my spine.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. I think just the whole thing of it's going to be wonderful.
Did any of you guys see the Infinity War trailer before they pulled it off the internet?
They pulled it off the internet?
They were shutting them down left and right.
No shit. Why?
Yeah, because it was filmed, illegally in one of the halls out there at San Diego Comic-Con.
Well, now I didn't watch it because I was going to go watch it a later day.
I do not believe that it's been. I don't think they've released it yet, and I think they've been shutting sites down left and right on that one.
Why would you not release it if you've?
I don't know. Maybe they felt like it
con exclusive.
Yeah, or not a finished product. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Well, I think that'll do it. I mean, definitely, if you haven't seen Spider-Man: Homecoming yet, you need to go ahead and get on that and get it watched and tell us what you think. And if you disagree with us, definitely let us know and let us know what you think about it. Alrighty, guys, welcome to the Cosplay Closet. In this segment, we're going to talk a little bit about the Midsummer Night Masquerade put on by the Pandora Society and the Pickle Brother Circus. The Pickle Brother Circus was actually, we met them at the Kentucky Renaissance Fair. They do a lot of, like the fire eating, they do a lot of different tricks, some of the whip tricks there, and they were actually there. The Midsummer Night Masquerade, it's got a lot of great music, a lot of great dance, but they also had the fire dancers out there. They had all kinds of different stuff going on, and it was just an absolutely wonderful time. The Corsair, some of the Corsair and Equitas crew were actually set up all the light and sound for it, and sit there and cooked for a couple hours to get it going. But it was a really wonderful time. They did some really great cosplay, and at that point I was so busy running back and forth setting all the sound stuff, I didn't get any pictures or get a chance to really talk to any of the winners. But really great, definitely worthwhile going out there to check out. We probably need to all go out there collectively together to do it. But it's a really fun, really laid back event, and the music was great. At one point during the night, though, I was actually leading a conga line through the entire through the entire dance party. And I don't know exactly how many people was in it, but we actually were weaving through the crowd and like through the tables, we were snatching people up and just putting them into the line. It's like, you don't have any choice. You're going to dance whether you like it or not.
I don't know if I really want to see you leading the conga line.
Oh, you should have seen it. I was dancing my ass off, man. It was a lot of fun. They had some really great vendors out there too. But it actually ended up storming halfway through. And if it's any indication of the dedication of these people that go to these events, it was absolutely pouring down the rain, storming, and the music's still going. Everybody's out there dancing. We're soaked to the bone. And it's just an absolute blast with everyone that's going on out there.
Where was it held? Did you say earlier?
It was, it was actually at Moonlight Gardens in Coney Island, right there, right across the river into Cincinnati.
Oh, okay.
No, it's always a good time. This is, they typically do it about this time every year. And, everybody, I think everybody that I saw was dressed up. No one seemed like they were just in their street clothes, and everybody had really great costumes on, and it was being a masquerade and everything. Everybody was all done up really nicely.
Sounds like a good time.
Oh yeah, it was a good time minus being soaked through and trying to dry out all the leather and everything that I had with me. But
You think there might be a picture out there of you leading the conga line?
I'm gonna try and track it down to find it and put it on the Facebook group because I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
Definitely have to see that.
Picture it didn't happen kind of thing, or what?
I'm sure that somebody out there has got some great pictures. Man, at one point I'm up on stage with the DJ dancing to Sexy and You Know It. Like,
right said Fred.
Yeah. So that's the thing of it is the group Commissar and Equitas that I kind of pal around with and thankfully a part of is kind of the party group. So at one point, Courtney Stoll, who's one of the captains for Commissar, she's out there dancing, having a great time. And myself and this girl, her name's Kitty Kim. And she's a great person. She does all the bartending stuff with the group. She goes one way, I go the other, out into the crowd, slowly snatching people up. And like, look, you're here, you're having fun. You could tell they were kind of wanting to get out, but they were too shy. And we're just snatching people up left and right, dragging them out into the crowd. And within about 5-10 minutes, we had pretty much the entire masquerade out there dancing. And by the end of the night, everybody's soaked through. We're up on stage. I think everybody's had a couple drinks by this point, belting Bohemian Rhapsody at the top of their lungs while it's pouring down rain. And it was the most beautiful nerd collective that you had ever seen of getting people just there together. Jason, you'd have had a stroke. So you got to come with me next time. I'm gonna get you on stage.
Sure.
Of their shaking your thing, man. And
good luck with that.
But no, everybody was singing, had a great time. It's definitely one of the more fun events, and it's like I said, it's very laid back. Nothing too over the top, but always a wonderful time.
That's right.
The Sith Lord Chicken kills you with 9 points of damage, it does, Bullwinkle.
Damn it, that is the last time I play the Sorcerer Paladin multi-class.
Marvin the Martian, I shall destroy him with my T-38 Space Modulator. Miss that does. Lord Sidious, your attack?
Ah, yes. I can feel your anger.
Here we go again.
Just put me down for 9 points of damage. Can you do any better, mama's boy?
I'm going to use my Force Choke skill.
Lord Vader's going to choke his chicken.
The fate of the galaxy depends upon you, Lord Vader.
I will now try to draw upon the power of the dark side.
Do it. You better not blow it this time like the Death Star.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Anything but a 1. Anything but a 1. Anything but a 1. Oh.
Rolled a 1 he did.
No.
Okay, in response to some listener feedback we've had, we are looking to expand our gaming segment and redubbing it Anything But a 1. If you're a tabletop gamer or a board gamer, then this is a segment for you. If you ever played any kind of dice game, really, you'll probably understand what I'm meaning. When you always throw a dice to make your attack or whatever, and you've got a good chance to hit. As long as you don't roll a 1, it always happens. It's almost magic, or there's some kind of statistic anomaly in space-time that happens when all you need is a 2 or better to succeed. You're going to get the 1.
Absolutely.
So Anything But a 1 is going to focus on different gaming systems that we come across. And if you have anything out there that you'd like to have reviewed in this segment, let us know. We'll try to get an advanced copy or a copy donated to the podcast and play it ourselves and tell you what we think. So this month we've chosen the new Warhammer 40,000. The 8th edition was just released back on June 17th. This is Games Workshop. This is like their flagship game. Before X-Wing Miniatures came along, it was the top-selling miniatures game in the world. And the 8th edition launch has been very popular. It may overtake X-Wing yet again. So went around town, talked to some of the local Warhammer 40Kers. Went down to our local games workshop called Man of War Games Workshop and talked to the store manager, Iliea. She goes by Commissar Iliea. And we also took to the local standard bearer in town, Bradley Given, who helps organize games down at the Battle Forge. And both of them are gearing up for the summer campaign called The Fate of Connor, which started yesterday, July the 27th, the time of recording. So we have 2 interviews coming up now with Iliea and Bradley, so please give them a listen. Hello, everybody. This is Jason taking over the roaming reporter role from Zach for a change. I've stepped into the Man of War Games workshop to talk to Iliea, the store manager, about the new Warhammer 40,000 and get the impression that she has and maybe some of her store customers as well. Okay, so Iliea, what do you think about the new Warhammer 40,000?
I personally love it. I think it's easier to pick up than ever. It's my number one job is recruitment, and my job just got a lot easier because of 8th edition. And my customers seem to really enjoy it as well. The transition has been really, really smooth and just rewarding because people are less intimidated by it. Therefore, they're bringing in their buddies, and then I get to recruit them. So,
yeah, I have to admit myself, I'm more of a fantasy player, but I've been eyeballing 40K for years, back in the 6th edition, 7th edition, but it's just been really intimidating, and book upon book, rule upon rule, and it just seemed like this insurmountable hill to climb to get into a game system, but all that's different now?
Yes, so it's as complex as you want it to be. You can play with very simple rules depending on what units you take. The core rules for the game are going to be really easy to pick up, very much like Age of Sigmar. And then a lot of the intrigue and the layers, the technical layers, can come from the units you choose to bring in. So if it were Space Marines, for example, you could have a very simple, vanilla, as it were, group of Space Marines. But if you wanted a little bit more fluff with your Marines, you could run something like Death Watch, which is going to give you a lot of weapon options and flavor.
Cool, and I understand that all the old races are back. If you had an army from a couple years ago, that's fine. You can buy the new omnibus or whatever for each Xenos race or Imperial race and just jump right back in, right?
So you have indexes now, and there's only 5 of them. So they're $25 a piece. It's not hard for you to know not only what your army can do, but what armies that can run alongside them can do, because they'll be paired in the same index. And even if you're a collector or you're just a good strategist and you want to know what your opponent's armies can do, it's pretty easy to get those now.
Cool. So coming up this summer, if I've read up on it, we have another summer campaign coming out for Warhammer 40,000 called the Fate of, is it Connor? Connor? I don't know.
It's actually Connor,
Okay.
So it sounds like some dude that we're really concerned with, but it's actually...
Who did he tick off?
I know. It's actually an entire system. It's a solar system, and Connor is going to have different planets within it, so that's... Do you want me to tell you about it?
Yeah, we'll talk some more. I believe it starts on the end of this month, right? Like the 29th of July?
Let's see. It's going to be the 27th.
27th? I was close.
Yeah.
And it runs for 6 weeks?
It does.
Okay, cool. So one thing I like also about the new 8th edition is they finally, after decades, advanced the story some. And I've been reading as much of the fluff as I can get my hands on so far, and it's really interesting to me. So I believe the summer campaign will continue to move things along depending on the results?
Yes, at least for this particular system. So the galaxy is vast, and so are the storylines. Yes, you're right. We have been progressing the storyline. That's been very exciting for everybody. Cool thing about Fate of Connor is that you guys get to interact with that. So you're going, depending on the outcome, week to week, not only is it going to affect the gameplay planet to planet, because each week you're going to be fighting on a different planet, but the overall outcome is going to affect the fate of the galaxy, at least for this solar system.
Cool. And the games that are played, do they have to be played here at your shop, or can people play at home in their dank basements and then come and report the results?
So they can absolutely play at home. The only requirement is going to be you have to record your scores here in the shop with me, because I'm a participating store. So in order to have those games count, on top of playing within the requirements of that week and that planet, you got to come talk to me so that I can upload your scores and forever change the fate of the galaxy.
The eternal question, does having painted models make a difference?
It certainly does. In fact, that's one of the ways that you can participate in the campaign. Oh, hey, welcome in, guys. Just let me know if you have any questions. You too. Hey, Douglas family.
Hardest work in person in Warhammer 40K right here.
Yeah, I certainly am. They call me the Commissar for a reason. Okay, what was the question again?
Painted armies.
Painted armies, absolutely. So you can participate one of, I guess, 3 ways. Each week is going to represent a different a planet, and those planets require that you bring different things in order to tackle the terrain or the scenario. So if you bring the type of unit that we're highlighting that week, which will all be spelled out for you guys on the website. And also you can come in the store and talk to me. You're going to get double points if you're playing, and you're also going to get double points if you show me that you've fully built and painted something new for the campaign. You'll get points anyways for showing me new built and painted units, but you'll get double if they're the featured unit. For example, week 1 is going to be start collecting sets and Space Marines. Week 2 is going to be elite units. Week 3 is tanks, and so on and so forth.
All right, cool. That's good news for me because I don't have a lot of time to play, life, being married and having a job and stuff. But I can usually squeeze in like an hour or maybe 2 hours at night painting. And I'm about halfway through the Dark Imperium box set, so maybe I can throw some of that out there and get some cheap points for the Blood Angels.
Absolutely, and they're not cheap points. They count for just as much as playing the game.
It's not my fault the dice hate me and I always lose.
That counts as participation in the hobby, and we're trying to have a campaign that highlights all aspects of the hobby so that you guys can participate in whatever way you most enjoy.
Cool. What if I live out in the sticks somewhere here in central Kentucky and it's hard for me to find opponents, but I want to participate? Is there a way I can come to the store and get some pickup games or meet some people, or do you assist with that at all?
Absolutely, I do. And there's a few different ways to get a hold of me. Number one is, of course, coming into the store during our open hours. We are open Wednesdays through Sundays, noon to 7. Then, of course, you could give us a call. I'm always helping people schedule games. It's kind of important with this particular campaign because if there's nothing at stake, I can't count your game. It's going to be victories for Imperium, Chaos, or if it's a Xenos victory, they get to take a victory away from Imperium or Chaos. Oh. So it's important that you pair yourself against an opposing faction, so there's something at stake. The last way, and probably the most reliable way to get a hold of me, would be through the store's Facebook page. It's going to be Games Workshop Man O' War, after the horse, of course. We are unofficially voted coolest name in the entire company.
I was totally going to ask that question.
Yeah, we super are. So you can get a hold of me on there, message the page, and I will answer your questions and help schedule games so that you can play an opposing faction.
And she's not lying. I message the page all the time with stupid questions or rumors that I'll find on the internet about, are they killing off all the Space Marines? And she'll write back and say, shut up, you're stupid.
Or more likely asking if they're going to make Plastic Sisters.
Yeah, are they going to make Plastic Sisters?
I have no comment on that.
I really hope so. I always like the Sisters of Battle. Okay, well, you took my joke about the Man O' War shop. I was going to ask if, when you go to HQ, you go like a couple times every year, right, to do some training and updating. Yeah. And then I'm sure you have to introduce yourself. It was like, hi, I'm Commissar Iliea, the Man O' War Games Workshop.
Yes, pretty much. I try to slip it in there as awkwardly as possible in every interaction.
Do you explain that it's from the racehorse, or you just say, no, we're just that badass?
It's pretty much just the badass factor.
Okay, so aside from 40K stuff and the Fate of Connor, I'll get it right eventually, Connor the summer campaign. Do you have any other regularly occurring events for all of your games and any big things coming up you want to talk about?
Okay, so here at the shop we have 2 beautiful gaming tables and we have a paint bar, and those are open to any of my customers to come in and have a learning experience or just to play some pickup games or hobby. That being said, I don't have a regular night of the week that we play games because that's every night of the week. Every day that we're open, you can either schedule games or come try to get a pickup game. We're always here to teach and facilitate fun. As far as events go, I'm going to focus on this Fate of Connor campaign and help everybody have fun for the duration of the summer. But Armies on Parade is just around the corner. Mm-hmm. That's going to be probably middle to end of October. We do it every year, and it's the most fun, most comprehensive building and painting challenge that we have. We give out beautiful medals.
I'm a silver medal winner from a couple years back myself.
Yes, you are, and you had a beautiful entry. So it's just a really fantastic chance for people to interact with other hobbyists and show off their hobby in a really big way. It's a display board contest, and I'll post more about that really soon.
I remember I came in last year, and you almost had run out of room to display because they're all on a 2x2 board, right?
Yeah.
And you'd pretty much run out of space for them all. It was awesome to see all these beautiful armies, and especially the big diorama pieces that people bring in. I mean, it takes them months and months of work, so you should probably get cracking right now.
Yes. Yes, we start the muster really early for that because you might have big dreams. We don't want to hold you back. It has to be a 2 foot by 2 foot as far as the base goes, but it could be as tall as you want. It could have as many models as you want. It could even have a active battle going on, and we are here to help you make that dream come to life.
It was last year. Some of the entries even had like light displays built into their tables, and that was really cool.
Yes, actually, I think I have somebody who's going to attempt to do smoke this year without fireless smoke.
I went to Adepticon 2 years ago, and some guy had a dwarf army, and he had a 2x2 thing, his display board, and he made it to sit on top of the keg. He would pull around the convention and dispense beer from, and I'm like, this guy gets it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a family-friendly store.
Yeah, don't bring that to Games Workshop. I'm just saying.
But on a personal level, I fully approve. That is fantastic.
I guess he could put like Kool-Aid in it or something.
I guess.
Okay, so anybody, if you're in the central Kentucky area, please come on down to 115 North Locust Hill Drive here in Lexington, Kentucky, and it's Suite 106.
Yes.
Okay. Great tables, great service here. And I thought maybe before I left, if the Commissar is willing, maybe we could get the people here in the store to give us a rousing wah.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
You think they go?
You guys ready? 3, 2, 1.
Wah!
Oh, very good. Fabulous. Thank you.
Hey everybody, this is Jason. I'm here with Zach down at the Battle Forge in Lexington, Kentucky. We wanted to sit down and have an interview with Bradley Given, who is organizing the shop's Fate of Connor campaign for Warhammer 40k 8th edition. Zach, you want to say hey?
Hey everybody, we're down here our first inaugural game of Warhammer 40k for the 8th edition, and excited to be talking about some of the things going on with it. They're definitely taking a new direction. So tell us a little bit about some of the changes and everything going on with the 8th edition, and what you like going on with it so far.
This is Brad. I like pretty much mostly everything that I've got to play with so far. It's a very different game than it's been for the last 10 years. I don't know how well versed like everybody is in like things like Age of Sigmar and what they've done with Warhammer, but like a couple of years ago when they switched Warhammer Fantasy over to Age of Sigmar, there was a lot of like kind of complaining from the community about how they'd turned the game a lot into more similar to 40k. So then early on I was kind of worried about all the rumors that they were turning 40k into Age of Sigmar, but the thing is Age of Sigmar is already so much like 40k was that it's more distilled 40k down into a game that's plays more like what you would want it to than changing it like on a fundamental level. It's just codified, like simplified a lot of the rules and to where everything's kind of obeying the same rule set now. Instead of there being a lot of differences, and you had to have a lot of paper, rock, scissors. It's kind of like everything's the same unit type now.
Mm-hmm. I think it's probably safe to say, with the benefit of hindsight, that maybe the big changes to fantasy that came about in Age of Sigmar, I think Age of Sigmar was kind of a testing ground for maybe a direction they wanted to go with their games in general. And so at that point, fantasy was a very small part of their business. I think was it 10-15, people say 10-15% of their sales.
Yeah.
So they weren't worried about risking it too much to see how this drastic change would go over with the community. And it took about 2 years that then Age of Sigmar caught fire. And I think that gave them the go-ahead, okay, let's go ahead and import a lot of this into the new 40K.
Well, they did that General's Handbook that, where they actually gave everybody a lot of like the army construction points stuff that everybody had kind of been waiting for, and they used that as a major spot to, I guess, clarify a lot of the rules and give people more structure. So then when 40k 8th edition dropped, that was already pre-built into their system, so there's not like a lead-in anymore. Like they were ready to go as soon as it came out.
Again, hindsight it tells us a lot of information, but I like the way the company, I think it was the launch of Age of Sigmar that they didn't handle properly.
Yeah.
And they were very careful with 8th edition. They were given daily leaks about what to expect. They told everybody right out, listen, all the minis you have now are going to be useful in the new edition. They didn't dry up any armies like Bretonia or the Tomb Kings. Everything's still around. They gave us playable army lists on day one. It's like they learned from all of the mistakes with the launch of Sigmar and did it, I think, totally right with Warhammer 8th edition, 40k 8th edition.
I think saying that they've learned a lot is like a general statement about Games Workshop right now too, is because they've kind of been effectively like the grumpy bad guys in like the gaming world for about a decade.
Yeah.
But they've completely, I think, done a complete reversal. Like I was gonna say a heel face turn almost, like where they've gone from being like the guys that you kind of have learned to hate to like being a company that like I think really listens to its customers and wants to provide products that people have actually been wanting for quite a while.
Yeah. Zach, I don't even know, like, how long have you been into GW's games? And this history we're talking about the bad PR that GW suffered under for a long time. Were you around for any of that?
See, I think the most of it that I started with was just kind of collecting the models, loved it, but then ran into the same issue as you talked about, was so many rule books, so I've got to buy a compendium and a rule book for this and a expansion pack for this and everything else, and finally it almost became prohibitive to a degree, and especially as someone who was looking, in my younger days, just getting into tabletop gaming, trying to find things that were pretty user-friendly. It seemed like the earlier editions weren't as intuitive and user-friendly for somebody to get in at the base level without spending a lot of money. Yeah. And I felt like at that time, too, it was kind of he with the deepest pockets wins. Whereas now I feel like with the changes that they've made, everything feels really balanced, just kind of reading through the codexes. I mean, obviously you've got your really powerful units, but they have their drawbacks, too. I mean, it sounds like they kind of did away with the Death Stars and everything else in this edition to where it's really anybody can kind of bring what you got, and everybody's going to have a really good time. Ali, you mentioned, kind of a change within their PR and listening to their people. So with this Fate of Connor, am I saying that correctly?
I believe so.
Connor.
I think it's Connor.
If Chaos wins, it's Connor. If the Imperium wins, it's Connor.
That sounds fair, yeah.
So tell us a little bit about this from what I've heard, that they're kind of letting the players worldwide determine the fate of Connor. What's going on with that?
Yeah, I haven't read their newest novel that they had at launch, but I guess the system that Connor is in plays a part in that book, and it kind of, from what I can tell, it kind of ends at a stalemate in that story. So I guess this is actually picking up on that, and it'll how the player base, which side actually wins the most games, will I guess actually affect the narrative of the game, which they've played with in the past. Like back in 3rd and 4th edition, they would do like the Black Crusade or the Third War of Armageddon as global campaigns, but they've backtracked on what the players did on those stories. And then they didn't do that again for a decade. So this is the first time in probably a decade that they've run an organized campaign like this on their own. So yeah, that's definitely one of the ways that the company, I think, has kind of moved forward, is they've gone back to a popular idea, like letting the players have some control over the storyline they're telling, and then just running a global campaign that players can feel that they've got a stake in the game for, everybody every week.
They did the same thing last summer with Age of Sigmar, and it was an overwhelming victory for the Sigmarian forces, the Order faction, and it played a big role on the Realm of Life, where they finally pretty much ran Chaos out of there and threw Nurgle out. And of course, he's still there a little bit, but it did kind of determine. It kind of did determine one of the fates of one of the 8 mortal realms, and so I guess they're just going to do the same thing with Connor this time. And I understand that if you're a Xenos, you don't really win, but you can take away something from one of the other factions.
Yeah, so the campaign's definitely geared...
You get to be a jerk. It's awesome.
Yeah, the campaign's definitely geared between the Imperium and the forces of Chaos. And what's neat is, instead of just telling the Xenos players that they can play next round or whatever, they've instead allowed anytime you win with a Xenos army, you can choose one of the other armies and remove the points that you've won by from their total instead of adding to one of the sides. Which is, so effectively, if you're orcs fighting the Imperium, then that's resources they can't send to the main battle against Chaos, so that makes sense. And then if you're Eldar fighting against Chaos, and I mean Eldar would have reasons to both, I guess, help or hinder the Imperium, based on...
They're enigmatic.
Yeah, they're weird. What their Farseers have foretold them would be the most useful to their race or whatever.
Yeah.
Essentially just Eldar are like the epic trolls of 40k anyway, so...
So, like I said before, you're kind of helping organize the effort here at the Battle Forge in Lexington. If there's more people out there in the central Kentucky area that like to take part, can they get in touch with you or just come by the shop, or do you have any structure to it yet? I know it starts tomorrow.
Yeah, well, that's, I guess, my only complaint so far is that I don't have a lot of information from GW other than what's on their website, which I guess I'll plug a major corporation real quick, but they just have a Warhammer 40,000, like just 400,000.com.
Mm-hmm.
There's a link at the top of that page that takes you to the campaign information, which is just like their weekly missions.
Mm-hmm.
It has a store locator, so you can find the stores that are near you that are hosting campaigns. As far as I know, that we just, like, as a campaign organizer here, I just put the results into their website every week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you said, technically we start tomorrow on the 27th. We're going to have an actual like game day though on Friday the 28th, where I think we'll probably have a dozen or so people here to play.
Nice.
If you're interested in signing up, I do have there's the 40K in the Bluegrass Facebook group.
Good.
That I'm effectively running this out of there.
Okay.
And then I've got like an event set up for Friday's game that's just called Fate of Conor Week 1. I'm
Okay.
sure there'll be 100 different Facebook events for that around the country, but for Week 2 I'll do the same thing where I'll just set up an event for Week 2.
Well, I think my Blood Angels are willing to step up to the plate and participate. Zach, what about you?
Oh, absolutely. We're gonna secure a victory for Grandfather Nurgle here, and we're gonna infect the galaxy because that's what we do.
Cool. I would talk just for a second, touch on the lore, the so-called fluff of the 40K 8th edition universe. Since the beginning of Warhammer 40K, I think the story has kind of been stuck in the same place. And they finally moved it ahead. And all that comes from the 8th edition rulebook that I've been reading through. It's refreshing to see stuff out there happening in the galaxy.
Yeah, like I said earlier, they did those big campaigns before, and they just kind of never printed the results really. They never codified the results into the fluff, the narrative or whatever you want to call it. And this time they've definitely, between the last little couple of campaign books they did for 7th edition and then the launch of 8th edition, they've definitely done a time jump where they've had the Imperium develop new technology and had Chaos made major strides to like create a giant warp storm that's affecting the entire galaxy. So they definitely moved the lore forward quite a bit and seem to be interested in actually having a kind of living campaign setting now for the game instead of it just being, because it's been effectively 5 minutes till midnight for 20 years where...
And now it's 5 minutes after midnight.
Yeah.
A lot of the Primarchs have been showing up too. Zach, who's your favorite Primarch?
Well, as of right now, it's probably going to be Mortarion because where I'm playing Death Guard. So just a giant flying Grim Reaper demon on the table I think is going to look awesome. But I don't know. I kind of like Magnus too. You know, got to go Chaos, but Magnus looks pretty awesome.
Do you feel, Bradley, that Magnus kind of got a raw deal in the Heresy?
Well, that's I do to an extent. Having just actually reread Prospero Burns, that novel, like reading it a second time, you definitely actually, I felt that I definitely started to pick up about the Thousand Sons are completely hubristic in that book. Like they are very much like full of themselves and very self-confident for like what they, like their knowledge they have. So it's not like you could say that Magnus fell from grace and never was never a straight up traitor. Right. But like he climbed to the place that he fell from, and there were plenty of like warning signs to not get up there.
Yeah. Well, they were told, hey, knock off the psychic stuff, right? And then
yeah. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if your average listeners want to go into the
weeds.
The fascinating, like the fascinating 8-hour discussion we could have about the Horus Heresy and the fall of the Thousand Suns.
But if you do, write into our show at geeksboutiquelex@gmail.com. We'll be happy to talk to you there about it.
Yeah, we can handle some questions. And I don't know if you've been keeping up with the rumors, Zach, but the next Primarch may be your guy.
Yeah, looking at the cover art, there's been a couple depictions of him for on the Dark Imperium box and in the rule books. There's definitely a flying Grim Reaper demon in the background somewhere kicking ass and taking names.
Yeah, and he's definitely open for business, whoever he is. Bradley, what do you think about the new Primaris Marines? I know a lot of people are split about that.
Well, I guess I'm a little bit split also because deep down I'm pretty sure that this will... I'm pretty sure that this will mean that we won't see a lot of future releases for the regular Space Marines. It's not like you'd mentioned earlier, the Bretonnians and the Thousand Suns. It's not like that at all, which I'm glad for. But like really, the way they've been written, it's not as a sudden departure as Age of Sigmar was, where like literally the world ends and then you end up with...
Okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah, and you end up with like a completely new army out of the blue that's literally being forged by like a god.
Yeah.
At least this has been, there's been some hints in the background about like the Mechanicum working, or the Adeptus Mechanicus working on these guys for thousands of years. So they've at least taken steps to write the story where it's not a complete shock that these guys are just showing up out of the blue.
So kind of going off the idea there to where they've changed some things and they've written into the story. One of the things I came across was that they're kind of purifying the gene seeds. So why do you think they did that as far as like for a rule book and for the company of everything? So removing stuff like the Mark of the Wolf and then the Blood Rage from the Blood Angels. Because I mean, if they're going through and purifying these gene seeds, I mean, you'd think they'd be stripping out some of those trademark things too.
I think in the long run, I don't think those will actually go away. I think that's a modeling opportunity in the future for them to come out with Blood Angel specific Primaris Space Marine models that'll be like, well,
Angel Death Company?
Yeah, like, oops, like these guys also suffer from the Black Rage after a while. Here's models for that, and here's their special rules. Like, because you look at the Wolfen models, like if they were 10 feet tall instead of 9 feet tall or whatever, like, they'd be even more terrifying. Like, and I sort of look for even the Chaos Space Marine line eventually there'll be some Alpha Legion guys that get a hold of some Primaris Gene Steed and start experimenting with it too, I'm sure. Like, because if nothing else, this is just a way for them to have kind of reboot the model line to be a better scale for the Space Marines.
Absolutely.
Because previously the Space Marines really weren't larger than Orcs or Imperial Guard.
They were Space Marines.
Yeah, but now they're definitely, like if you look at them on the tabletop, you can definitely see that they're, head and shoulder taller than most of the other models in the company that the company makes. So, yeah, I look down the road to seeing kind of an upscaled version of like the Chaos guys and a lot of like like you said, the Blood Angels and Space Wolf special units probably.
Yeah, that was one of the things I definitely noticed just looking at all the models in general. Even the Death Guard, the new Space Marines, they just seem they're a lot heavier, a lot chunkier, a lot more just plague-infested, nasty goodness.
Yeah, which the Thousand Suns that came out like last Christmas were actually a little bit bigger too, and I just don't think anybody paid much attention to it. But now if you put them side by side with the Primaris guys and the new Death Guard, you can definitely tell that I think they knew where they were going. They just wanted to release those guys early, I guess.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, I guess let's go look at some miniatures on the table. Zach and I are going to play our first game, Blood Angels and Death Guard, and if I win, you'll hear all about it. Brad, is there anything else you wanted to add before we let you go?
Not really. I know that the online community for Warhammer tends to be kind of a very mixed bag. There's a lot of toxicity, I guess.
It's the freaking Kraken. Let's be honest.
No,
here.
yeah.
There's 10,000 tentacles in a beak, just crushing everything it can get a hold of.
But I think, like, I mean, at least for me, like, this is the first time, and I mean, other than the fact that I've played a lot of the Forge World's Horus Heresy, but like their games also, which have been kind of a positive. It's almost like a historical game kind of community there, where you have a lot more of a narrative-focused, kind of not as, a lot of times they'll say whack win at all costs is the acronym there. Like, oh, there's a lot of wackos, I guess, is what they say.
Yeah.
But that's been, this is the first time for like, just main brand 40K that I've really felt optimistic about where the company's going, what their design plans are, because they seem to have taken a lot of time and effort to plan out where the game's going, and then even some of the first batch of tournaments they've been running that were kind of being overran by a lot of the flying models and a lot of the gene stealers and stuff. Like their first FAQ that they just released this last weekend, they've upped the point cost on the pure strain gene stealers, and then they've changed the flyer rules a little bit so that if you only have like flyers or fortifications on the table, if you don't actually have tanks or like feet on the ground. Like that triggers the sudden death scenario. So like you can't. There was a couple of tournaments that were won by people just spamming the Storm Raven, where you'd have 5 of them, and then like minimum squads in them, so that you could fill out your force organization and have a legal army. But now they've changed that to where you like literally have to have like guys standing on the ground to like stay in the game.
Yeah.
So that. They've already looked at like some tournament results early on and been like, no, that's not the way we meant for the game to be played, and changed some rules around that.
Yeah, again, learning from the mistakes of Age of Sigmar, because you'd have people that, you put down Nagash, there's my army, let's have a go.
Yeah.
And that was not exactly what they had in
killer goodness.
Well, and even learning from some of the other game companies where you have like Privateer Press will constantly do FAQs to fix things in War Machine, and Magic has banned and restricted lists for all their cards.
X-Wing, we play a lot of X-Wing too, and it's notorious for fixes on the fly. It's good that GW finally caught up with that movement in gaming, and they have a living rule system.
Yeah, well, caught up with the existence of the internet, which is one of the things that I've liked recently, because they'll post things on their Facebook page about, like, oh yeah, we figured out that the internet's real, and like we could use it. Like the game used to be a lot more lighthearted back in the day when you had Space Marines with like things like insert butt here written on their boots, like back in 2nd edition and stuff.
Well, and like some of the 1st edition sculpts were just hilarious. Like the fact that you've got Magnus was like a bird-looking thing flying, and then or some of the demons were like monkeys looking almost.
Yeah.
Emperor's Children rock band.
Yeah, so the Orc Goth Rockers, So like the game's gotten more serious, and it's kind of stayed serious this edition, which I'm fine with, but the company itself has definitely remembered like humor is an important part of like, because we're not, like, even if you're serious about Warhammer, it's still a beer and pretzels kind of game where the game can be grim and gritty, but the company doesn't like have to be like.
The game should be fun.
Games. Yeah, and the community definitely should be like able to make fun of itself, and like, and I think that they have definitely got on that train as far as the train of thought for the community.
Yeah, it's good to see, and I'm in the 40K, and Zach and I are both in the 40K and the Bluegrass Facebook group, and it's very positive. People post pictures of the models they're working on and army ideas and stuff, and it's very collegial and supportive, and it's a good group of guys that hang out here.
Yeah, it's definitely good to have, like, as toxic as I said, like the online community can be sometimes. Like that's the faceless masses. Like I've never been to a convention or a tournament or anything where any of the people you meet face to face were bad. Like whenever you meet people that play the game, they've also invested, hundreds of hours painting models. So it's not like anybody is actually, it's a very like-minded group of individuals, like once you get to know anybody in the hobby. But
Yeah. That being said, Zach, I'm going to totally thrash your face tonight, by the way, just so you know.
So are we at closing remarks for the interview now? Or?
I think we probably should stop, yeah.
Okay, closing remarks. Jason sucks, Zach's awesome, blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne, and yay, Grandfather Nurgle.
I got nothing.
I think, what's the copyrighted phrase that I'm not allowed to say before a boxing match?
Get ready to rumble?
Yeah, so...
Up to 700 points. Let's get ready to rumble.
Ding, ding.
Well, thanks, Brad, for coming on the show with us, and maybe we'll come back to you in the future when cool things come out. And we got chapter approved probably later this year, and a lot of codexes coming out. We might want you to weigh in on what you think, and any other events that you organize, feel free to come on and advertise those. I know the shop runs a monthly tournament we're trying to help spread the word about, so a lot of good 40K stuff in the future, and we want to be sure that we give you guys an outlet on our podcast.
Yeah, that's the first Saturday of every month is 40K, and I'm pretty big in the X-Wing community around here too. We have a Facebook group, and L5R is going to kick up after Gen Con, so that should be a pretty big kind of competitive card game scene, hopefully. So, yeah, anytime you guys need anybody who just in general wastes a lot of money on games, feel free to ask my opinion.
Okay. I don't know anybody who does that. Do you, Zach?
Nope. Once again, Jason sucks, Zach's awesome.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Thanks again, Brad.
You're welcome.
Okay, Zach, buddy. I hope you enjoyed having the interview with Bradley as much as I did. He's just a good guy.
Oh, yeah, a lot of fun. That was actually the first time I got to meet him. Seems like a great guy. Seems very knowledgeable and very passionate about getting the local community going. With
he plays
Warhammer.
a lot of 40K. His armies are very nicely painted. Like I said, he's like the cheerleader for the game here in town. So I wanted to talk to him. He's been in the hobby for a long time. He's got a memory that goes way back to different editions and how 8th edition stacks up against them. So I definitely want to get his take on it. We also talked a little bit about the new Games Workshop. I've been playing their games since the mid-'90s, early '90s, and they've always been a very distant, aloof company. And if you didn't like their games, they really cared not. Since about 2 years ago, the release of Age of Sigmar and now the new Warhammer, they've become a lot more customer-friendly. A lot of direct contact through their forums and through Facebook. And a lot of that's been reciprocated. The fans are a little less trolly, a little less cranky, because they're being given, finally, what they've been clamoring for. And 40K 8th edition is a huge reflection of that. So Zach and I got to play our first game a couple of days ago. What do you think?
Man, I'm loving it. I mean, that's the first game of the new edition that I've played. I think the models are great. I think the scale is wonderful, and the detail's just insane.
Yeah, they're far and away. I mean, there's a couple companies out there that can rival their miniatures, but not many.
But even then, I mean, rivaling, they're still light years ahead. You know, even to their next competitor. I think overall the game seems wonderful. It seems very well balanced. It definitely seems like the Primaris is the group to have. That seems to be probably one of their I think their current baby right now from just kind of what I've seen with the rules and everything as far as some of the abilities. But it still feels very balanced overall.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm playing the Death Guard, had a great time with it, and the rules are incredibly simple. I think this is as far as a miniatures game that anybody can pick up and learn to play. I mean, yeah, we've played quite a bit of Age of Sigmar, but even then, just looking at the rules, within about 10 minutes, we had the game pretty well figured out with all the mechanics and everything, even the special rules. I don't really have any negative things at all to say about it. I mean, you know, like you said, I think this is the newer, happier, more fan-friendly Games Workshop.
Definitely.
And that's actually been a big reason why I hadn't got into it until Age of Sigmar, with the new direction they've taken. I think you see a lot of fan service. You don't really feel like, oh, well, this is the crappy army, this is the good army. It seems like they're kind of trying to devote equal resources towards everything. I mean, I know, obviously, the Primaris is their new Space Marine stuff that they're trying to promote. So obviously they're going to dump some more into that. But even that, though, playing Chaos and playing Death Guard, some of the new models and the new abilities and the rules and everything, it's mind-blowingly awesome.
Mm-hmm. I'm the same way. I've been keeping my eye on the game probably the last 2 or 3 years. never got back in because there was just too much content. You need the main rule book, you need your codex for your army.
Yeah.
And then there were even like sub-codexes and plus like years of
Compendiums
FAQs.
and everything else. Yeah.
You need to carry a library around to have a game, and now the rules are on a 12-page little fold-out pamphlet.
And the thing of it is too, though, talking about a product launch, as far as Dark Imperium, and that's actually what we played. We just played with the rules and the stuff out of Dark Imperium.
Yeah, that's the new core set.
Yeah, and that's for your money, you can't possibly beat it because it comes with 38 force points. Well, that's all we played with that night. We kind of excluded some. There was quite a bit more than that. Comes with a lot of models. Comes with the Primaris, and it comes which are the Space Marines, and it comes with a Death Guard. My personal favorites. Mm-hmm. And then it's got kind of some fluff, like a little mini codex for each faction there. Had a little bit of fluff in it. Had all the rules and data sheets, and it actually has a full hardback rule book in it. It came with how many was it? Was it 9 or 10 die that it came with?
I think 10.
10, and then it also came
nice
with
big ones too.
Yeah, actual like good high quality dice, not just cheapy ones. And also came with a pretty neat ruler that you could lay down. It was almost like a movement track because you could lay it flat and clearly see and move your figures along it. Yeah, you can't go wrong for the money for that thing.
That's another aspect of the new GW is their pricing, because yes, they are the best miniatures manufacturer in the world, but you do pay for them.
Yeah, I mean you're getting what you pay for.
But with their starter boxes, they've started, since the birth of Age of Sigmar 2 years ago, giving really good deals on the big sets. So the Dark Imperium was $160, I think.
Yeah, it ended up being $160 to get it.
The getting started boxes are usually around $85, and there's a lot in there. You can start playing right out the gate with just that.
Well, what was really interesting too, and I think you kind of noticed this when we were at Battleforge looking at stuff, was that there's the big main huge starter box, but there were also at various smaller price points skirmish boxes that had some terrain, had some battle mats in them. I mean, it seems like they're kind of catering to gamers at all levels of experience, at all levels of interest, and the way they're writing the rules with the new power points level. I mean, hell, I had my army list figured out and put together in 5 minutes. There wasn't any fretting and farting over, oh, well, this one's got this piece of equipment, this one's got this piece of equipment.
Yeah.
Nope, here's their power level. We're just adding the list together, adding numbers together, and now it's put together in like under 5 minutes.
And a lot of people have been dragging their feet about trying the new GW games. One of the big criticisms has been, well, they've taken so much away. It's not strategic anymore. There's no complexity. It's like it's equally as much, if not more.
I would say it's more because, I mean, with the terrain placement and the model placement and the lines of fire and everything, the way we were playing it the other night, it was an extremely strategic game. It was, I think it is the beauty of the new Warhammer 40K is it is as simple or as in-depth as you choose to make it.
And they took out a lot of the points of contention. When I tried Warhammer 40,000 in the past, I always hated template weapons.
Yes.
Because it's a fight waiting to happen. I don't take my games very seriously.
This is over here. This is over here. No.
Yeah. Those who don't know, a template weapon, you just have a big see-through template, and you would, like if you're launching a mortar shell or a flamethrower, you would put it over your enemy's models and say, okay, how many are under this thing? And of course, your opponent, whose troops are getting shots, is going to be like, well, clearly it's only 2. And you're like, well, clearly it's 5. Right. And after 30 minutes later, you may actually get to continue the game. So took those out completely, gone. Yeah.
And
thank you very much.
The other beauty of the new release with it is they've kind of nerfed the Death Stars.
Yeah.
It's yes, your really high-end models are expensive, but that's with any game. But it feels like they've kind of killed the idea of he who has the deepest pockets wins.
Yeah.
I feel like that you could take any force that you have, and as long as they're of equal point value, put them together. And if you play well, and obviously there's an element of luck to any of these games with how your dice roll, because my dice just abandoned me. And I don't think I've ever seen you roll any dice that well as many games.
You won the game, dude.
Well, it doesn't matter. I didn't completely annihilate you, and that's the problem. It's I only won if all of your forces were dead. But so that's one of the things of it. There's no longer these just overall insane rules that are just crushing the game anymore and crushing the community.
One more thing I'd like to mention is that they have kind of advanced the storyline. For the past 30 years or whatever. They haven't moved up the narrative, the backstory at all. It's always been like the quote is 5 minutes to midnight. And now midnight has come.
And it's 5 minutes after midnight, like I said in the interview.
And the Imperium of Man is trying to claw back out and reclaim its Imperium across the galaxy. So if you're on the fence about it, go down to your local game store. If you got a GW in town, go down, talk to them, get involved. They have a little demo game you can play. And give 40K 8th edition a try. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Absolutely. Could not agree more.
Well, that's it for this episode of Geeks Boutique Podcast. Please contact us with your feedback or questions at geeksboutiquelex@gmail.com. Also, please consider becoming a supporter by taking a look at our Patreon account. Any amount you donate goes directly to helping us bring you the podcast. Now, stay tuned right after the show to hear a track from Atrocity and the Complications, As the Storm. Contact us to book these face melters. Until next month.
Man, oh man, it's like watching a monkey fuck a coconut. There's a whole lot of commotion, a lot of movement, but nothing's being accomplished.
No stopping that which can eternal walk, and by whose guarding even death may be stopped. All
Thanks for tuning in yet again, and please let us know what you think. Our social media contact information is posted in the show notes as always, and we'd love to hear from sycophants and sociopaths alike. If you would, please give us a positive review on iTunes. That'll help us move up the charts and spread the word about our super awesome show. We'd like to thank our regular Patreon sponsors again, and until next month, keep your powder dry.
All music for the Geeks Boutique podcast is performed, recorded, and owned by Kung Fu Lips and the Critical Hits. For booking information, please message us on our Facebook page at Geeks Boutique Lex.